fascinating webinar, the Ultimate Voiceover Demo Review, led by Ron Knight. Ron is a leading voiceover coach and also one of the nation's top demo producers, and it's going to be a fascinating thing. As you might have heard me say before, what I've written in Voiceover Extra is that this is a real eye-opener. I'm John Florian, the founder and webmaster of Voiceover Extra, which is the leading news, education, and resource for voiceovers. And we're glad to have you with us tonight. We'll introduce Ron, tell you more about him a little bit later. But first, you might also know that you'll be able to participate tonight, later on, in a lively question and answers. And so I'm going to introduce now our production manager, Becky Bridges, to tell you how to do that. Becky, hi.
Hi, John. Thank you. To keep background noise, we'll be muting everyone except for Ron and the people he's working with. If you have a question, click the hand icon on your control panel and we'll unmute you, and you can ask your question by speaking into your telephone, or if you're connected by computer, you can speak into your USB microphone. Or you can send a text question by typing into the question box, which you'll find in your control panel, and press send. This session is being recorded and will be available to all attendees for download free of charge. Within a few days, you'll receive an email with a link to a site where you can download the session. And now back to you, John.
Thank you, Becky. Now, folks, today, here's the agenda for tonight. Ron will be reviewing and evaluating demos live. He'll list. We'll be able to hear the demo, and then he'll give his evaluations. He'll also be instructing us on what voice seekers look for in a demo, what they listen for, and that tells us what to do when we produce our own. And then we'll have the lively Q&A. Let me tell you a bit about Ron, if you don't know him. He, as I said, is one of the nation's leading advanced media voiceover communications coaches and producers. Demo production is a specialty. But he's also a big voiceover talent. He's been the voice of Nickelodeon, the Travel Channel, Sirius Radio, ABC Networks, Disney, and Universal Resorts. And he's done many, many, many commercials. He's also the president of Knight Mediacom Studios, which produces cinema advertising, production for soundtracks, interactive media trigger spots for national cable media, and projects for new production techniques for avatar animation. And if that's not all, if that's not enough, he also teaches advanced market voiceover workshops. And of course, we're pleased to have him with us tonight for this webinar. Ron, thank you for being here, and we'll turn the webinar over to you.
Well, hey, thank you very much, John. Thank you, Becky, and thank you all participants who are here. I'm going to make a big presumption that you can all hear me loud and clear, coming to you live from the studio. And if you can hear me, just go ahead and hold up your right hand with your central finger pointed at the ceiling. No, that's not going to do it. I can't see you, so don't bother doing that. We are going to go ahead and spin right into this, and I know that tonight many of you are going to have countless questions. I'm going to do a kind of an overview of the voiceover demo industry, the approach. Many of you have been studying for a long time. We probably even have some veterans here with us tonight, which is a great thing. So when I do my reviews, I'm not actually looking to single out anything that is quality, bad, poor. I'm not putting things on a scale of 1 to 10 to say this work is great, this work is really not great. It's not a qualitative assessment. What I'm trying to do is give you kind of a marketing handle on what goes on in the world of the gestalt of media production, media marketing communications, and what happens by the time your interaction as relationship gets to a buyer or a decision maker looking for specific voices when it comes to branding, comes to marketing collateral, comes to client approval, that kind of whole clusteral approach as far as what goes on, especially if you're a talent who's pretty hopeful and if you're playing a numbers game, which is the very big realistic game of saying, if I can nail that many demos out to that many people, and if I have a return on investment when I'm planning to get that many gigs booked that are going to come back to me, and whether I'm a $4,000 gig talent, a $40,000 gig talent, whether I'm a $400 gig talent, I have to be able to work some set of numbers that come back to me with a minimum amount of bookings per week, per month, per whatever your mathematical quotas are, if you have those. And realizing that while you're doing all that, you're still enjoying the process. So what I do, believe me, I've been listening to demos for an awful long time. I do create demos. I've had a lot of people come to me over the years, decades, whatever it's been now, and say, why is this not working? So I'm going to just try and give you my overall, kind of the overall picture of what a demo is, in my opinion, and what it should be doing for you. And then we're going to actually get into some playback here. We're going to actually play some of this stuff. And I'm not going to say, okay, this is the voice demo that belongs to Jamie Farnsworth. And we're not going to do that. We're going to just kind of make it a big bowl of soup, and we're just going to play them through. And I'm going to talk to you from the perspective of casting director, marketing director, client assessment. I'm going to talk to you as the producer who has been accosted by voiceover demo people probably since 1978. And, I'm going to go through some of the things that hit me in the back of the medulla oblongata when I listen to these things, and the telltale signs that I can say, I know where this came from, or I know who this person is, or hopefully that big ding that goes on in the back of the mind where another producer, that third-party perspective, will get the demo and go, wow, wait a minute, where have I heard this person before? Because if I don't know them, and if I don't know the brand, I want to be deceived that the brandability of this voice is something that I should have been aware of, because it sure sounds like some other celebrity or media attachment that I can relate to, and it sure sounds like exactly what I need for my next client project. Okay, and that's really the name of the game in terms of getting things to drop into the basket and make your demos be more productive for you. So I'm going to go ahead and see what I can do here to go ahead and take over your screen. Do not try to adjust your television sets. It's, okay, I guess you can all see what's going on here. And do I get a confirmation, Becky, that we're good to go? Hello?
Hi, Ron. Yes, you're set.
Okay, away we go. Thank you so much, and away we go. Okay, well, again, as soon as this thing fires up, it should be firing up here pretty quick. Okay, there we go. All right, and hopefully you can see that. Again, welcome to the, as John, I guess somebody has coined this, the ultimate VO demo review with yours truly, Ron Knight. My contact information is right there in the lower corner. You can reach me at any time, Knight MediaCom. Telephone number's down there below, 619-573-9919, and of course my email, rknight@knightmedia.com. Okay, so in the wonderful world of demos, where we all get accosted by demos, but now, used to be in the mail, and now it's MP3 and emails left and right. And of course, understanding that the marketplace is changing due to the digital era that we live in, I kind of used an old moniker at the top here of VO demos. Way back when, VO demos used to be on reel-to-reel tape. Some of you may remember that. And so I just kind of picked something here that might look like something like little tape reels spinning around. Now, we've known for a long time that, when voiceover talent come to a guy like me and they say, why is it not working? How can I get more bookings? I know I can do this. And, there is no shortage of VO talent that sing the same song over and over again. And that one is the same one that I learned when I was in programming briefly at New York, in a major network in New York City. That song is me, 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 and it's all about me. And, most talent will, and I'm not being disparaging here. I'm not saying that talent shouldn't be focused on their own creative skills and what they bring to the table. But what I am going to suggest to you this evening is that your demo is really not about the talent. It's not yours. It's not you. The clue of your demo is that it's really not about you and what you do or what you think you are all about as a voiceover talent. Everybody wants to get into this business because you think you're a talent and somehow that's going to win you fans and celebrity endorsement and panache and all that good stuff. At the end of the day, it's really not about you. And believe me, people aren't really listening for you and what you can do. I'm going to go deeper into this. I have people come to me and they say, but gee, I can do a great voice of a 9-year-old little kid. And you say, that's great, that's wonderful. Guess who they're going to hire when they need a 9-year-old little kid? They're going to hire a 9-year-old little kid. So in many cases in the demo, it isn't about showing anything and all the things that you can do as a talent and how talented you are. It really is not. What it is about, the demo, is it is format media based. Now, some people have come from radio, traditional media in the past, and most of the people I know in voiceover production today, they will say that if a talent even mentions their background in radio, It's kind of the kiss of death. We know that. But one thing we did learn from radio, which is an absolute truth as far as the demo is concerned, is that the demo in and of itself is format media based. Now in radio stations we had a bazillion of them, and some of them went to what was called CHR, contemporary hit radio, smooth music, smooth jazz, top 40, big beautiful music stations. You know, they actually format, you know, certain specific genres, and your demo is about a media format in its own very stylized presentation with its own time constraints that are absolutely to industry spec. It's kind of like saying if I've got an 8x10 headshot and it's a glossy and I give somebody a quick scan of something that was shot with an instant, I don't know, like a Polaroid and blew it up to size, they know that's not an 8x10 and they immediately know this person is not a player. They don't know the standards. But the demo in and of itself, while people are saying, gee, I want to be able to show everything that I can do, it isn't about that. Your demo is not about you. Your demo should be a magazine. And when I say a magazine, think of it as its own media product. It's like a TV magazine show format, or maybe even a 4-color print magazine of tight editorial focus and a very specified target circulation. I'm going to say that again, tight editorial focus of the content that's on that demo or that production, and the production is going to a very specific target circulation with a very specific interest in the very specific topics that are on that piece of work, that media production. Okay? If that makes sense, then you've absolutely got something known as something that is relevant, of interest and topical interest and of need to the people that are getting that demo. So, you know, this is a fundamental thing. Rather than thinking when you get your demos together and what you're putting into your demos, don't think what I can do. Oh, I can do a great voice of a talking licorice stick, or I can be a little chimpanzee on a unicycle, or I can do a great voice of a 9-year-old little kid. You know, it isn't what you can do. It is what you do for the brand, and how your voice core has direct impact and endorsement firepower for the brand, and how you as a voice talent or an actor are brandable towards what is on that demo. And then further, you might want to then think about how the amalgamation of these brands, these representations, how these media representations brands support your magazine, this editorially focused piece of content which is getting distributed to a core circulation who are your, you know, the clients. Now this magazine or this demo is directed and aimed right at its core focus or the circulation as the target population. Now VO talent are hired by an established fan base. Everybody wants to get into voiceover and they go, yippee-doo, I got the brass ring, I got the broadcast spot, I got the commercial deal, it's the one that's paying me royalties, I got to be the voice of the talking underwear, I get to be the voice of the talking glove that, you know, ran its finger across the dishwashing machine on the counter for the soap spot, whatever it is. And you go, yay, 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 I'm famous, I've got fans. You don't. Nobody knows who you are. Not really. That's your delusion. The fan base really are the core of the people that make the casting decisions, and that is your fan base. But that's not a public fan base. These are the fans that are in the industry, and by developing your friends, colleagues, and people that support you because of what you bring to the table, and they understand your marketing prowess, those will become the fans of you that will then bring you into their loop, and those people have to become the target, the circulation of interest, wherever that demo is going to go. And on that demo, topics of direct editorial readership of what's of value and importance to them. I hope this is making sense. We'll get into it a little bit deeper. There are so many questions in the demo, and there are many of them are the same things. You go to the voiceover workshops, you go to the voiceover classes, you get to hear them over and over again. Many of them are, by now, they're stereotypical from the actor's perspective. But what about from the editor's perspective? The person that would be putting the media communications together. It's been said that motion picture or film is the director's medium. Yes, there's plenty of actors in a movie, and yes, they get Academy Awards or they turn in great performances, but the bottom line is that the film is the director's medium. Records or CDs, audio recordings of the past when we used to have vinyl were called albums. Records are the producer's mediums. Yes, we have recording artists. Yes, we have rock and roll bands. Yes, we have songwriters, but the finished, mastered product of a record is the producer's medium. And books, magazines, are said to be the publisher's mediums. Yes, we know we have authors and writers, and they can write content forever and a day, 5,000 words, 6,000 words, but inevitably it is the editor who is told by the publisher what the topic is going to be, and if you give it to an author, The author will go, great, I can write 5,000, 6,000 words on that. And the editor will say, no, you've got to get it down to 2,000 words. You get X amount of column inches, and it has to be consolidated and that tight topically to what the publisher is saying is of relevance to the core circulation this month. So in all of the area where people try to get into a business and they want to be as creative as possible, that's great. It's wonderful. And, well, you should. But understand that you are trying to fit your voice as an OEM manufactured product into a larger production perspective of other people. And the more you can do that and be right on the money with that, the more they will hire you to be predominantly the talent who is providing your component part, which is the voice. So for a voiceover demo, we are talking about the communications medium. Now that said, the VO demo, as I've said before, in your case, you think it's yours, but it's really not the talent's. This is why it's never a good idea to produce your own voiceover demo. It's not yours. When you go out in the real world, your work is produced at the hand of third-party producers who bring you in to be the talent. Then they wave the magic wand and they say, that's the take, that's the buy, out of take 7, take 9, take 3. Bye! You get your check, you leave. In comes the music, the sound effects, the creative, the copy, the backstory. Everything else is done for you. You just get to be the talent. So your demo should be reflective of the same process. And just as the work for hire that you do is produced at the hand of third-party producers, the VO demo as a piece, okay, as the communications medium, is the combined director, producer, and publisher's medium. And if you are fortunate, if you are lucky, you will find all 3 of those elements put together in one human being who understands the process, who can do that all for you to get you marketable and ready as an OEM manufactured part that goes into a overall production process of a larger production scheme. And that said, here's one of those stereotypical actor questions. Which is better up front overall? Your best reads? Or the other question now, if you understand what you do for the brand, or your branding representations. If you've got to grab somebody's attention in the first 3 to 7 seconds, and generally that means 5, which is better up front and overall? Your best reads or your branding representation? You've all gone to the voiceover classes, you've all gone to the schools, and they always say, well, you should put your best reads up front. I come from a different school of thought. I like branding attachments, and I like those implied endorsements, and I like the billboards on the side of the highway and go, bam, that's the person that I saw, that's the media image that I get, and that person was part of that. And I've got another school of thought for you. A best read up front, what does that mean? Your worst reads are in the back? If you're doing a VO demo, what part of a VO demo is supposed to have your worst reads? Shouldn't the whole VO demo have nothing but great reads, best reads all the way through? I never understood that. Well, put your best reads up front. That's like saying if I toss you a flat football and I know you can't run the entire football field with it, go sit on the bench for a while, but make it look like you were huffing and puffing up front, like you were really going to go for it. You know, I'm sorry, this is a competitive marketplace. You should have an absolute top drawer, sparkling VO demo that just rocks like a, a glossy magazine. Those magazines that used to show up at the front, you rip off the brown paper and you don't get anybody up front going, hi, my name is Hugh Hefner, I'm a publisher, and here's my magazine. Guess what it's called? No, you just look at the 4-color glossy up front, you go, bang, you know what that magazine is, and it just sparkles cover to cover. That's the way your VO demo is supposed to be if you are a media representative person working in the industry and showing people what you bring to the table as part of the process. So, I'm going to kind of spin through some general overview comments, questions, and things that I put together. Kind of not really a top 10, but just kind of top 10 bullets in general about, voiceover demos in general. Your demo cut selects, the picks that you put on a demo, they should be equitably matched copy all throughout. Now, whether you're actually getting the gems of your demo work, I'm sorry, scratch that. The gems of your actual work that has been really, truly credible work, broadcast stuff, narration stuff, big branded stuff, point of purchase, whatever it is. If you got to be the voice of the squeaky tennis shoes and it somehow is reputable because the most famous athletes in the world have been wearing those things, whatever it is, I don't care if it's actual broadcast stuff or usable media stuff, audio-visual production collateral that has been for real with really strong Bible credits, or if you're devising new material with brand new copy that is being selected and written and stylized for you and your branding capabilities, When you get to a demo that is going to be consolidated like this, your demo cut selects and your matched copy should be matched all the way through, your styles and the branding, to the voiceover talent capabilities in branding. Okay? What does that mean? If you're not particularly weak or if you're not particularly strong in certain areas, don't try and cross-jump tracks to areas where you're really out of your core or out of your signature, and certainly don't do it just because you think you can. Okay? Every segment of that demo should be appropriate for the talent's capabilities. That does not mean if you're a weak musician, you're a bad musician. Okay? If I took 4 mop tops and put them in a studio in Hamburg in 1962, 63, and people, when the recording light went on, said these 4 boys are never going to make it, okay? And if I took those same 4 mop tops and if I put them next to a great saxophonist in jazz by the name of Charlie Parker, well, we all know that John Lennon, Paul McCartney did not have that same level of musicianship that a Charlie Parker had. But what the Beatles did know how to do was come up with amazingly great stuff that resonated the right way with core audiences and were absolutely superb for that which they brought to the table to move people in a way given the level of skill, production, and understanding what their capabilities and their communications and their imprints were. Okay? So your copy and your pieces all the way through your demo should be that way. It should be appropriate all the way through for your capability. Okay? And the inherent signature as you've developed to this stage of your life. If you've been doing voiceover for 3 years, I guarantee you, you will not be doing the same kind of material as you are going to be doing 23 years later down the line, 30 years later down the line, 40 years. Okay? And hopefully if you're not too jaded, you know, when you just exit and say, that's it, I'm gone, I've bought my island in Micronesia somewhere, you know. But everything on that demo should be inherently straight all the way through, matched to the inherent signature as developed to this stage of your life, and the applicability to the media usage impression of those media brands that are reaching out to use you for the way that you endorse their product. And of course, everything has to be consistent from story, backstory. Is it absolutely credible that, you know, I've heard some copy come in here and, you know, you hear some stuff and it sounds really cute. They would write something for a financial organization. They would produce it with music and this and that. And you realize that when you're a producer on the outside, you go, well, I can tell it's a demo because even though it's a cute, slick little production, it's absolutely wrong for the type of media branding usage. It wasn't market real. If I was really the brand of, you know, Shearson Lehman, or if I was, you know, Bank of America or whoever, would I be doing this kind of a production right now in 2010, in 2011, you know? And believe it or not, producers aren't stupid people. They know the drill. They've been around the block a few times and they can hear this stuff. Let's see if I can advance this and move on a little bit. Okay, let's try that. Okay, pick a button, any button. Okay, so your demo should have a core focus. You want to be able to narrow and specialize. Again, this is not about doing all things to all people. Voiceover people think, I got to get a couple of more gigs, got to get my numbers up, so if I keep doing these gigs for $385 for the first studio hour and $110 for every half hour in the studio thereafter, my core is about $485 per session to $700, and I'm going to catch everything that comes along that I can do. You narrow and you specialize, and you get the content of that demo immediately relevant towards where it's going to go out in the world. Okay, so you want to keep it focused and specialized. I'm sitting here punching on this button and trying to figure out why this puppy isn't advancing, so pardon the technical goof-ups here. As I said, and I've said a few times to people when they're selecting copy or when I'm selecting copy for them, a point in every direction is the same as no point at all. So again, you're figuring out your signature core, your producer is figuring out the signature core and putting you on relevant collateral going to that specific core market. Point 3, whoa, listen to the music. Okay, how important is the music? This comes up a lot in the questions. How important is the music? Volume, too much, too little? Is it timely? Is it brand image, scene story appropriate? Boy, I can tell you I've heard plenty of demos, and you can tell that they are demos right off the bat. The idea of a good demo producer is that they want to deceive. You want to be lifted up. You want to be able to deceive third-party hiring decision makers that somewhere your brandability and that media reflected on that demo is topical, it's relevant to them, and it sounds like it's absolutely smack dab on right out of the pen, fresh and new. And a lot of that is also telltale in music. Music is like fashion. Production libraries come out, generally speaking, in some cases every month, mostly every 3 months. And a lot of the times when people are making demos, they've got some of these production libraries that are royalty-free, clearance rights-free. Maybe they were picked up for $99 somewhere 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And you know what? After a while, everybody in this game knows that music. We've heard it countless times, and I can pretty much tell when I've heard that kind of a demo of production music that was taken from a library and slapped into a demo, it reeks and leaks of being a demo. And if you think that, you know, a guy like me can't hear it, or I don't hear it, believe me, I do. We do know these things. We know the libraries that are offered to us all the time. We know the price points of the libraries, okay? So music is really relevant, especially in today's world where it used to be in the past you would never use a pop song. Well, now people are absolutely reaching into real popular cultural icon type of music libraries and borrowing these things and throwing them into the largest possible brands that we have in the United States to really help connect, as an example, the demographic of the baby boomer back to that place where they've come of age and now they're going on 50, but yet they're still going to be racing around in whatever it is, the black shiny Cadillac that does 180 miles an hour from 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds, you know, and they're playing out Led Zeppelin, you know. But the question really becomes, is the music appropriate to the script context, the media settings? Is it absolutely right that that media where that spot or that audiovisual production was going to be hung or used as part of a media plan? Does it all sound like it was making sense for the usage as represented to have been taken from out in the real world and then placed on your demo? Because that's the kind of stuff that producers are listening for when they say, sounds like real credibility to me, sounds like real branded media to me, sounds like stuff that if I didn't hear it, doggone it, I should have heard it. And where was this person? How come I didn't get to hear that? Where were they? What part of the nation were they in? And that's what I want on my next production if it happens to fall into the same category of industry, on the same level of editorial focus in the same core industries that we're talking about, where you're putting that demo into a core circulation of that many people that are about to receive it and then place a value judgment when they listen to it. So does your demo, does it reek or leak of being a demo? And now this is, you know, here we go, class or workshop work, repeat copy. Guys get the, you know, people get demos all the time and they hear sometimes the same copy over and over again because you get so many people coming out of classes, you know, or somebody's workshop, and that demo spot, there's that copy again. You know, by the time you've heard the same thing, possibly on 2 separate demos, you know something wasn't right here, because that certainly wasn't reality in the marketplace. If it was a piece of media, one person got to be the voice on one piece of written copy and one piece of media. So class or workshop work is generally a no-no. I mean, really a no-no. Repeat copy that's showing up on somebody else's demo? Nuh-uh. Cookie cutter work, or work that maybe it was done for you, but the kind of work where really the copywriter should be shot, point blank, 21 guns, you know? And all of the content on that demo has to be appropriate to the media channel where that media has been represented to have been used or positioned, planned for and bought and aired or placed. And of course the marketing, and not only just the marketing, you know, is the marketing appropriate for what that would have been even if it was done as a demo? We're trying to deceive people into thinking they don't know whether it's, you know, quote unquote demo or not. And is the media being represented on that demo also appropriate to the chain target as it would have been used in real life, in a real metro market, or across the nation? Those are all the questions that really need to kind of come into play here. Okay, so I'm trying to hide this window that keeps showing up in my face. Let's see if I get rid of it. Okay, all of your elements in the demo also need to be matched. And when we talk about matching, I'm talking about in the pre-production process. This is no different as far as I'm concerned than shooting a motion picture. You don't just go out there and grab a camera and go, let's go shoot a bunch of people on the street when you're making a film. There's a pre-production process to line up the shots, line up the storyboards, line up the script, angle these things out, and your production of your demo should be thought of in the same way. You know what elements are going to go where, why they're going where, from soup to nuts, start to finish, A to Z, and how it's going to flow through. Again, if you're putting yourself in the hands of a good demo producer, this should all be part of your production as part of your show that you don't have to worry about. You just get to be the talent. But everything in those, everything has to be matched, not only in the pre-production process, to the target market use goal, and it has to be matched to Here's a button I'm pushing, and it's not working with me. There it is. It has to be matched to the business plan. People are just starting to get kind of hip. And the people I'm talking about are the voiceover people. People that are cutting demos and going, here's my demo, this is what I can do, this is what I can do, me, 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 me. Come up with your business plan first. Understand where your core strengths are, understand your core circulation of where that media demo is going to go, match the demo and production then to what the plan is as far as who's going to get it, and the other thing is represented as matched on that demo. All the perspective has to be from the producer's perspective or the ad media third-party perspective, not yours. It's the same way as if you've gotten hired by third-party hands. The same production is going to be reflected as if you just got to be the voiceover talent, and it's actually being done from third-party people. That includes the producer, the copywriter, the account supervisor, the client, everybody who's involved, 5 people involved in that decision-making process. Thumbs up, thumbs down, that was good. Can you change that line? You know, things just kind of move around, so the whole demo should reflect that matched element of being realistic and practical, as if all of those perspectives would have been involved in getting you to a net result to make that finished media, and then the finished media had been cut away and then extracted and consolidated and condensed into a final finished demo of the representative work. Out-of-date demo or collateral. Yep, okay, so Ron Knight used to be the voice of Nickelodeon in 1991. And there was a window of time in my life where, you know, I was doing everything. Disney, Universal, I became the voice of Tiger Toys, the voice of Nickelodeon, actually Tiger Toys by way of Nickelodeon. Words start to spread. You want the family fun market, that's great. If I were giving out that demo today in 2010, 2011, of the greatest stuff I ever had, which was a rockin' killer demo, I mean, it was smoking back in 92 through 95, people are going to hear that and going to say, well, that's great, but that's not relevant now at all, and it sounds stale-dated. You might have a great demo, but it's just plain old. Your demo should be reflected as updated at all times. It shows you're working and in demand now, not then, okay? Your audio needs to be updated as recent. It needs to be reflective of most recent trends in the media, which again is a fashion business. It is fashion-oriented, or non-media as we move into social media, as I like to call it. And it should be reflective of your market credits of the recent trends from where you've come from. It should be reflective of trends that are going on now. And most important, while you're actually picking the best of what's going to go on your demo, it should also have the ability, or your producer should have the ability, to forecast your market trends for close to mid-range future, meaning that if you're going to spend the time and money and invest in your demos, that demo, if it's your 2010 demo, if it's your 2011 demo, I mean, most people that are serious about this, they put out a new demo or a new piece of production, just like a recording artist, they put one out every year, okay? So you want to be able to make sure that if you can't put one out every year, because it does cost you just a few bucks to make one, and it's not only the bucks, it's the time, it's the mental concentration to go, whew, got it. That'll last me for a while. That's a good one. That's a representative me of who I am in the media marketplace. You want that to last for a while. So this is kind of like you're wearing your great groovy outfit from Donna Karan from 1998 or whatever she was doing, and now it's 2010, and you show up on session and you go, hey, that was a nice fashionable outfit that you were wearing from like 12 years ago. Now you're just wearing it and you look like you're really vintage antique. How cool. But that's not going to work to get you hired, especially in today's market when, you know, 24 to 35-year-olds are making the decisions, 35 to 44-year-olds are making the decisions, and, you know, the game is a little bit different. You want to stay updated because even if I could find, let's say, by example, the very same people that were making the hiring decisions and worked with me then and would hire me again now, if that person is up doing marketing for brands out of the Northwest, maybe they're doing stuff for the new MSN Gateway Network with Bill Gates, for crying out loud. If I show them how great my stuff was from Nickelodeon, and even if that was the very same producer, they'd say, well, that's cool. That's a nice little slap from our past. I mean, I know guys now that I worked with on a lot of projects in the 90s, and they're now all doing the soundtracks for the latest motion picture of Harry Potter. That's great. But if I remind them, hey, you remember when we worked together in 19... Yeah, they're going to say, that's great, but Ron, you're not solving solutions for me now, showing that you have come of age and you have the same kind of magnanimous, great media representations using you. So you have to make sure you're completely current and usable and have content on that demo that's going to be absolutely right on the money and usable knowing that even if it's on the cusp of something that's emerging, by the time it drops into place, 9 months from now, it's still going to be really relevant in the hearts, minds, and the spirit of the people that are producing media. It's got to be relevant maybe even for a year or two out, okay? This is like what's going on now is back to basics. Walmart is now hip and groovy because of the economy being so completely stagnated and flattened out that even frugal people who are wealthy are very proud to say, hey, we've learned to shop at Walmart. It's not just like, pardon my saying, white trailer trash kind of thinking, which was always kind of mass market. You know, you had Target, you had Walmart, you had Kmart, you had all these discount brands. You know, Target was kind of like more of the urban yuppie way to do it, kind of cheap, and now all of a sudden Walmart is very, very cool. Thank you to the economy falling apart, you know. But you should be able to know what kind of stuff is going to be relevant and the kind of marketing communications are going on now, because this is the way that marketers are communicating and the way they will be communicating for the next year or two. And not only updating your demos, but also to be considering to update your voiceover career. And this is absolutely relevant for career position at all times and career repositions. Which means there's a lot of times where, you know, you may have, I've had people come to me, they were doing $250,000 a year. What's up? Well, I'm doing a lot of auto stuff, I'm doing a lot of this. What I really want to do is I want to really, you know, I really want to write. And that's the old joke. I really want to do motion picture trailers. Okay, good. So you're not going to go be in the heart of Beverly Hills and knock out those jobs that have now been made available by Don LaFontaine passing away. But there is an independent corridor of film, let's say from Texas out to North Carolina. You're in the middle of Knoxville, Tennessee. You'll go after Sunbelt independent motion picture marketing, and that will be your corridor focus, and that's the people that are going to get your demo, and we'll do independent releases, and bang. Now these people have had their careers renovated, and they're absolutely happy because they're not just doing auto spots, okay? The demo is also used to revitalize and reposition your career when it sags, when it hits a pocket. The broadcast quality standards of a demo. Okay, all right. Enough has been said about this, but yes, if you're just sitting there recording it because you got a little Radio Shack microphone and you're sitting there knocking it out in the basement and it sounds that way, again, you can't take a Polaroid quick develop or an iPad, iPod quick shot, you know, got it out of my BlackBerry kind of a camera shot, throw it up on the computer, color correct it, print it out on an 8x10 glossy, and tell somebody that that really is your 8x10 glossy. You know, I mean, these things have to be done to an audio professional sound standard. The mix levels have to be absolutely correct so people know, yes, this is absolutely broadcast media or audiovisual media communications, even web streaming standards, okay? Mobility standards for 3GP, as the case may be. It has to be technically correct, and it has to be audio mix proficient. Everything you're doing on the demo has to sound like a crackerjack team produced it, because in reality it's usually a team that has got their hands on you, and they've said goodbye after a half hour, and you split, get paid, and they go to work on it for about another 3 to 4 or 5 hours, making it sound whatever that theater of the mind is supposed to be with all of its elements. So if you want people to believe that it was a real demo from real stuff and real collateralized work with real credits and real usage, it's got to sound that way. And the mix has to be right. It has to sound just like it. The content also is derived for the demo, does not only come from the engineers in that regard, the technical people, but also from the creative human personnel in the chain. A producer is going to have perspective. A writer certainly has perspective. The account supers on the account who have to deal with the client. They say, can we say that? Can we not say that? Would you rather say that? You don't want to say strawberry? What would you rather say? Wild strawberry? You don't want to say wild strawberry? Maybe you'd like to say roasted strawberry. You know, all the gunk of what goes into it, which includes the political sphere, the socio-political sphere of what goes into producing an output of a media that is its final net result. All of that has to kind of come out and sound like it's a real deal based upon what would have happened. And that includes the creative process and even the client acceptability on credible productions for market usage. Again, I listen to demos and they say, here, introduce to such and such a family. They like such and such and such and such. They do X, Y, Z. They have a problem. Their problem is left-winded smoke shifting. Here's the solution. The solution is the left-winded smoke shifter, foggy, smoggy thingy that takes the problem away. Here's your 3 benefits in a row. Here's your kicker. Here's your something warm and fuzzy to remember you by, and end of spot. And it's all very cute and very clever, and it works, except for one thing. It was not a credible production for that particular reality-based client using that kind of media for that kind of a communication. They would never have really done something like that. And again, if you've got it on your demo, it may be cute, but guess what? Somebody's going, this is bogus. This is just done to somebody's slop shop. It's not the real deal. Absolutely not the real deal. Okay, demos. Is it too long? Is it too short? Okay, there are time-appropriate standards that are, again, appropriate for the markets, the placement, or your usage goal. Now, we all know that in the wonderful world of agencies, a commercial demo once upon a time, let's say in New York, generally now for what's called house reels, on a commercial demo, those demos are going to be 60 seconds. And when I say 60 seconds, I mean 59.95 or maybe 59.5. If you're not going to go for agency representation standards, then you have to think of other standards that generally apply. Generally, you've got 90 seconds and 60 seconds. In Burbank, this was different. In Burbank, they'd say, well, let's say you're doing an animation or a character demo, 2.5, 3 minutes, go for it, rock and roll, take it out, take a long pass. I want to hear everything that you can do, because if I'm going to hire you to be on my series, and again, I'm thinking of my background back in the 80s and series, they'd really want to hear everything that you could do. So time was a lot better or a lot more lenient in a market like Los Angeles and Burbank. However, I will say that with a caveat. If there's a lot of fluff and filler in there and not the strongest collateral, and if it is really not in line with everything else that I've been talking about, and if all you're doing is showing more weakness rather than absolute glossy strength, then too long and too short is an irrelevant question. You're really, you're taking your knickers down. You're showing yourself off in public to not be a strong contender. So again, let's go back to this thinking that for commercials in today's world, because it used to be that if you were going to get on an agency's house reel, as it used to be called, which is now more of a house website, 60 seconds or 59.9 is pretty much a standard time standard for a commercial demo. Your other demos, such as e-learning, narration, all of your other niche market demos that you're also going to be launching yourself for, or that you should have ready to go, not as stringent to the 60-second collateral. Markets now which are really expanding are e-learning. E-learning is huge. Why? And you've got to think of the way the agency is thinking. Okay, if they put you into a voiceover gig and they give you an industrial narration, and if it pops $700 for you, most agents work 10% above, 10% below, maybe 10% in general. They're going to make $70. Yay! They got G&A to pay for, offices, rent, salaries. $70 doesn't go very far. Okay, that's why they always wanted your commercial demo to be the badge, because they knew that that was the one that would get you your broadcast royalties, because if it was used for 13 weeks, it would play again and pay again. That's where the going for the brass ring was. And if it turned into a viable property that got used a lot, it had back-end earning potential, used in multiple cities, and wild spot rates, network rates. That was a big gig, and the agency would rather make $30,000 on a go and get their $3,000 in at 10% than rather than wasting the time on the little 70s. So they really didn't care about things like narration, books on tape. Book on tape, you'll be sitting there in the studio working for 6 hours that day, and maybe somebody's going to hand you over $250. The agents don't care about that. So they don't really care so much about that. Now, e-learning is a new area, because if you're going to record 1 hour of courseware versus 4 hours of courseware, and maybe that'll turn into 12 hours of courseware, and if they're going to pay you $1,000 an hour, and they want that same voice to be, extended all the way through the online training or the online teaching of e-learning, now we're talking about some accounts again, not just jobs. We're talking about accounts, and now the agencies, of course, are interested in that. So before you know it, there will be a time standard that becomes relevant towards a category known as e-learning, which I'm willing to bet, mark my words, are going to probably come down to about that 60 to 90 window again. Right now it's not as strict. Generally speaking, 90 seconds is a good, safe bet for any demo, period. And then if your agency is going to, if you're trying to get an agent, you're going to need a 59.9 or you're going to need a 60. So the relevant of the time, again, I get a demo in here, and if it's 52 seconds or if it's like 153, I can usually tell when this is coursework or put together out of a workshop, or I can tell when it's, with all due respect, somebody who's been in this game for a while but doesn't want to do the work to get on top of their marketing and their branding and their collateral to say, nope, I'm really up to speed and right where I need to be at all times. And that's not laziness. It's a lot of stuff, I've known guys in voiceover for a long time ago, if it ain't broken, why am I fixing it? Really, please, Anyway, should a demo be boring? I mean, well, we don't want it to be boring, but, what's the difference between boring or irresistible? Should a demo be entertaining? Well, entertainment, perhaps. But as I was told a long time ago by one of my great mentors, the funny thing is you don't know what's funny or entertaining to a listener. You know what's funny or entertaining to you. So it's a pretty big bet to go, how do you know what's funny or entertaining? Look at this. Think about when cable first emerged, away from the big 3 or 4 first networks in the early 80s. Entertainment, of course, was one thing. But what was really relevant was hitting the nail on the head with content, programming content that was a direct hit to the target market population's interest. And that was the substance. So if you wanted to do the plumbing channel aimed at plumbers, or the home do-it-yourself channel aimed at those people that were interested only in do-it-yourself product, or the cooking channel only of interest for people that were interested in cooking, or the wine channel interested in wining, it was like you took broadcast in the broadest sense and you narrowed it down to more like direct mail marketing. You knew that somebody was a photographer, great. You give them the photography channel and you show them how to get free ASA film, 40 rolls for free every month. You'd hook them in. You know, that's entertainment to somebody when the content that you're giving to them, the content that you're giving is of such direct interest to fill their needs of what they're working on at that time. And if you focus your core of who you're giving that demo to, whatever you give to them, if it's absolutely relevant to their needs at that time, they're going to think that's entertainment. So think of your substance as being absolutely relevant to the core need of the person or population that you're giving the demo to. Slates, you don't bother putting anything into your demo that's going to actually be a distraction, any other distraction, and that includes things like the multiple voice spots. I'm sorry, I have issues with that, and I've done some great multiple voice spots myself and produced them and even done them as voice participant. You know, you give that to somebody, they go, well, I really don't want Amy, but that other person is great. Who the hell are they? That's the person I want. The hell with that. You know, so all you've done is given your sales collateral, marketing clout, the effort and the energy that you put into it, all you've done is call attention to somebody else. Slates, same thing. You think you're a viable entity? Right. Out comes Elton John. He's been doing this for 30 years, sits down at the piano, lights go down, up comes the spotlight, and he goes, good evening. Hi, my name is Elton John. I'd like to play the piano for you tonight. No. Your demo does the same thing. It's valuable real estate. It's like, bang, hit them with the 4-color glossy cover, and off you go for the ride. It's got to have zap, pow, and boom. You don't, oh, hi, my name is, this is Larry Farnsworth. Yeah, okay, thank you. I know that. Wasn't it on the outside of the box or wasn't it on the email? I know who the branded talent is. So brands, copy, talent, it all has to make sense given the marketplace today. Now, just because the voiceover industry as we know it is now on the web, and we know it's a global market, you know, I still come from the school of thought that says if you're a core brand and a known networked commodity within that 100-mile radius of where you live, still building up the relationships with the people and maintaining the relationships with the people that are the buying decision makers and keeping you alive with your fan club, your fan base, okay? Even though it is a global voiceover world, and yes, people do audition through Voice 1 through 7, sign 9 of voice.com and something.com and this.com and what, and there's 14 websites that people can now market themselves as voices and show up and work in your pajamas, and isn't that great? You just send somebody an MP3 and then you wonder why you're not booking. And the bottom line is this. It is a global and a network throughout the world. I've got clients in Manila. I've got a client in Rome. I've got one who just reached out to me in Tel Aviv. Okay, we get all that. But your global approach is not being everything of all things to all people with no target defined, and with your production values not on target for what the media usage is going to be. First, you need to get a full business analysis of what's right for you, and then you've got to find your producer coach. You have to plan your demo for that plan and the return on investment, the ROI. And I don't care if you go, I'm a $400 voiceover person, I need to make 60 grand a year. I don't care if you say, I'm a $4,000 voiceover person, I need to make 600 grand a year. And then you play your numbers down and reverse them out. And understand the marketing collateral that you need to be able to get your demos as the media productions collateralized and focused and distributed to each and every one of the core circulation of industry and those producers that are represented on that very specific demo. Now, this is going to break your heart, because some of you are still thinking I do the great voice of a little talking licorice stick, or a monkey on a chimpanzee, or a chimpanzee on a unicycle, or whatever it is that you do. You know, I can be the voice of Lexus, I can be the voice of Audi, I can be the voice of Volkswagen, I can do whatever I do. Sooner or later, you're going to say, I got about 6 or 7 things that I'm going to really aim at this year, understanding what the market and the economy is doing. If I understand that Walmart is now in vogue and that's where the money is going, even for the wealthiest of the uber wealthy in this nation, and that's what marketing communicators are marketing to, you're going to hone your choices down given understanding what your signature is, given understanding what your knowledge base is, okay, and you're going to put those representative samples into that branded demo for that year and get it out to that core circulation of interest who can then blend you into their media marketing production plans for that calendar year. This voiceover demo as media, I'm going to be really hellfire, brimfire on this one. This voiceover demo as media is just as important as any other production meeting or real staff perspective and a credible production result. So no cookie cutters, no I went to a weekend workshop and I got my little 3 or 4 spots and they set me up and I'm going to go market that as my demo, and certainly no slop shop spots. Okay, it was cute, it was funny copy, but certainly not relevant to anybody that would really do something in the market with that. Okay? And I can tell you, I've done plenty of demos now for people since, I don't remember, 1978, 1980 something, okay? I've been at this for a little bit. I've kind of helped reposition quite a few people. And I will just say the one thing over and over again. You get involved with some people that are just like degaussing their screwdrivers one day. They say business is slow. I know, let's start making voiceover demos for people. We're in the studio business. We've got to get something going on in here. Get away from those people. Okay? I've been with people that say, what, you're a hotshot producer? I said, dude, I've got 28 motion pictures on DVD and in-home media for the past 3 years. You want to look me up? Go look up Night MediaCom. I have no issue doing a voiceover demo. I do have an issue with people who do voiceover demos incorrectly. Because this VO demo, for the people that pay to get one done, it has to be just as important for them with the results it's supposed to achieve, and integrating this person into a media marketplace. When that person says, this is the result that I'm expecting after I've paid the investment in this business marketing, the same way a client or a brand, whether it's Cadillac or Frito-Lay, is spending the same money and expecting that communication to do something for the client. It's still supposed to have a correct result. And one thing further, if anybody's doing your demo, because this is a small world after a while, and somebody says, who did your demo? And the one issue I take is that when somebody says, well, Ron Knight did my demo, they go, great, thank you. And we respect that because that's what I've had to live to and work with, you know. And because people do talk. If the work is inferior as well, I've had people say, well, who do you think you are? You just do, you know, voiceover demos. I don't just do voiceover demos, but I treat them as equally as important when I do them. And I've known guys in Detroit, you know, they say, well, we just do, you know, or else, well, what we do is we do auto dealer spots. I say, well, good, that's your choice. There are those that would say that an auto dealer spot is on the lowest possible rank of media worthiness if we're going to look at things on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 20. So you think because your shop does auto dealer spots day in and day out, that because we bring in a voiceover client to do their voiceover demo, that somehow a demo project is not as worthy as your car dealer spots? I've actually incurred this attitude from time to time. I don't understand it. I've been the national voice of a lot of national brands. I don't care. It's the same thing at the end of the day. To me, it's got to be credible, it's got to be representative, it's got to be real, and everybody who stands behind a badge as created had better be able to say, I'm really proud of this work that I was able to do and do for you as well. So that's it. That's basically my long-winded overview. I probably talked way too long. If you need to reach me, and this is basically how you can reach me for demos. The demos that I do here, that we do here, I should say, we have 4 people on staff here, and I basically am at the helm of each and every one. You can reach me. The demos we do are appropriate for beginners because we like to deceive people into thinking. Now, I'm not saying deceive in a bad way. What we're really just trying to say is that if somebody is going to make a hiring decision, I don't want them to get your demo and go, yep, sounds good, let's bring the person in here, and then they realize you're kind of wet behind the ears, your knees are knocking. You're not really delivering the goods. What I'm trying to do is maybe have somebody who makes a casting buying decision believe that you've been doing this for maybe 3 or 4 years already in your career, maybe even if you've just gotten started, because that way at least they'll give you a shot. So the demos that we do for beginners are very appropriate, and you can rest assured that they will get you where you need to go. However, on the converse side of that, I will say that they are absolutely pro for intermediate and advanced voiceover careers, and I've got enough testimonies that can say when people were saying, you know, it just got a little bit slaggy even though I was already in 6 digits, they would come through to me and I'll say, I'll tell you why it isn't working, because you're still thinking I'm going to catch everything I can, and you're still thinking me, 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 and let's take you and reposition you as an OEM product into the best possible brands that are going to be using you for who you are as you rise to the occasion. And you do only the work that is most relevant to you, the work that is in your heart. not just being a hack, not just ripping and reading the weather somewhere at a poor little station, you know, in some remote part of the country, but really stepping up to the plate and earning and claiming who you are, and by doing that kind of branded work, taking the better gigs. So we structure, we coach, we direct and produce all over the nation by remote. In fact, we do it all over the world. And again, there's my contact info, and that's me getting ready to enjoy my nice handcrafted brew at my old prehistoric vintage machine. And that's it. Night Mediacom, contact information. You can hit me on Skype anytime. And again, my email information. And certainly as we get into this and get into Q&A and play some demos, afterwards you can always, of course, also contact John. And I think probably you found me in the same places where you can certainly find my email. I'm out there on the web. Okay, so I think we're going to get out of this. Becky, can I toss this back to you now, and we'll start to listen to some demos here? If you want to go ahead and take over your own title slide?
Yes.
Or unless you want to leave this one up. I don't know what you want to do.
So John, while Becky's getting set up, I'm absolutely awed. There's so much to think about that you've given to us.
Well, you know, there is a lot to think about. And, you know, I mean, this is why inevitably when I've worked with people that have said, you know, I'm just kind of stuck, most voiceover talent really just want to be the talent. And then when they get into the demo production process, they kind of get into a variety of situations where you can think of just maybe a few things and a few aspects of it, and you can get to somebody who can maybe just cover a few aspects of it, but they're not really looking at the gestalt of what goes on and what makes a branded talent be very, very credible and kind of move up the ladder in terms of what we call their brandability.
Well, you've shown us, too, that it's not just me. It's a team effort to do everything, and we have to use that mindset. Now I guess we're ready to go into your demo evaluations.
Yeah, let me, let's see, you know, and this is going to be clusteral. I'm not going to say, hey, here's the work of, you know, 14 people. I know we talked about doing 8 tonight. I'm going to just try and speed through these. I might actually get to a few more than 8, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. There are going to be some things that I'm touching on. There are going to be some things I am sure I will be remiss in not catching every little detail. And by the way, there might be some demos that we get a chance to listen to which are just fantastic. Okay? So let me qualify this. Everybody's demo is great. Okay? You're all great. The demos are great. But I can still point out as best I can, even if a demo is fantastic, as to why it's not working for you, or perhaps not working as well as you would like it to be. So I'm going to try and do that for you. That's why I'm here tonight, is just to kind of help crack open the nut. So let's just see what happens as we start to play forward. I'm going to play some of these. And let me see if I can get into my desktop here. And we'll see what happens. Okay, let's just get started.
50 years ago, businessmen were folk heroes. You and I may think the first Henry Ford was an eccentric with a distinctly comic side, but our grandfathers didn't. At the turn of the century, a certain class of business figure enjoyed a degree of public admiration that Americans of that period offered to very few of their politicians. A.G. Edwards intends to offer dividend reinvestment on most securities. As a participant in this program, your options include reinvesting dividends from one or all of your eligible securities. You may cancel your participation completely or for selected securities by notifying your investment broker. Babe Ruth's presence still looms over Yankee Stadium. He set countless marks that still stand unchallenged. The crowds loved him. And for 22 years, he gave them more than their money's worth. He hit the most home runs, and he struck out the most times, too. His total of 60 home runs in one season stood for 34 years. Boston is the cradle of American liberty, from its historic common to the Old North Church, which signaled the beginning of the Revolutionary War. Tour Boston to see Faneuil Hall, the Old State House, and the Old North Church. The rest of the day is free to do as you wish. Your tour director will offer suggestions to complete your night.
Okay, there you go. I don't know who you were, and we don't need to know who you were if you're online with us. But I will say right now off the bat, okay, a couple of things right off the bat. I'm looking at the time of the demo, and I'm realizing that there's only 4 segments on the demo. That's not a sufficient amount of content on a demo to be a real contender in a professional voiceover demo marketplace. Now, I'm expressing opinions. We all know in this business that opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. I know that. but I just want you to think about it. If I'm noticing it, if I'm listening to it, I'm willing to bet that other producers who have to sit here Monday through Friday do the same thing I do, then they're probably thinking the same thing I am. Okay? Generally speaking, when I hear a demo with 4 segments on it and not up to either a 60-second time spec or a 90-second time spec, to me, and I may be wrong, but it sure sounds like this was work that was taken from somebody's workshop, somebody's 6-week teleseminar, and then they go into the studio, and they get them on mic to read copy, and then they slap some music underneath, and we're going to talk about that in a minute too. 4 pieces on a demo in my world, because I've been on every aspect of it, from the bottom to the top, 4 pieces on a demo sounds like it's work that came out of a seminar, workshop, recording studio, boot camp. Boot camp. Everybody into the boot camp. Hey, next week we're all being voiceover talent. Now the music throughout this piece is what I was going to say, made from some choices that came out of what I would call that kind of, I mentioned that before, discount, buyout library content. I may be wrong, but it sure sounds to me very, very familiar to production libraries that I've heard in the past since 1980-something by a variety of the publishers, and it sounds like it was like royalty-free stock music kind of stuff. Was it highly appropriate for the backstory and the usage and all content? Not in my book, and I even think the mix level was a little bit high against the voice quality. Now, that first piece, the very first segment, I don't even know what it was. I can't even get a brand attachment to it. I mean, it was a nice piece, but I don't even remember what it was. I mean, I'm not getting memorability out of it. Let me see.
50 years ago.
Oh yeah, this is the piece on automotive. Harry Ford. Harry Ford, what was it? The history of Ford? Is it a piece that somebody wanted to do? Is it Is it Sunoco oil and gas? Why are we doing this? Is it a narration? What was it for? The music certainly wasn't highly appropriate if it was for a documentary. It just wasn't really matched for whatever its end goal media usage was. Now, I don't even know what it was for, what brand it was for, why it was done. The second piece, however, this A.G. Edwards, well, at least there's branded collateral. Right off the bat, I know it's for a financial trading company or an institution called A.G. Edwards. Now, I asked that question earlier, what should go up top, your best reads or the stuff with the best branded collateral representation? So at least there's brand attachments, and implied endorsement for media usage of your skill, of who you are. So I certainly, if anything, I would have said, well, let's at least start off with A.G. Edwards because, it's a better read, it's a better brand, it's a better showcase up front to at least launch and vault the demo. So I don't understand why it wasn't placed up front on the demo. Also, I think the music is a little bit off again, and a little bit, the topic was a little bit off against the music match for the read in terms of, financial investment. It sounded more kind of like a technology piece, and it might be a financial website. But if you look at what's going on in the world today, and I'm not just talking about healthcare reform, I'm talking about a possibility of a complete overhaul with this nation being on the balls of its ass and almost practical bankruptcy, the country being broke, and your financial brokers almost having to apologize for being criminals. Do you think a marketing communications today would have been, hey, we're high technology, come use our website and put as much money into us and you can trust us as traders? No, this brand probably would have been coming from a place that said, in today's marketing communications, we're trustworthy by design, we're honorable, we are the people that back up our financial promises to you in the following way. We're not like a Shearson Lehman, we're not like a Bear Stearns, we're not like everybody else who's been had to bail out practically by Bank of America and, fathered by the Pope. This is the nature of what marketing communications are doing. So again, it reeks of demo, or it certainly reeks of stale, dated collateral. The sports document, I don't have a clue. Again, if it was a documentary, and if it was a story about Babe Ruth and the history of baseball, I mean, the music was certainly very emphatic and endearing and morose, but I didn't get a match to the voiceover read in terms of that sensitivity. And again, I don't know what the media was for. I don't know if I had to go, what was it taken from? If I have to ask that question, that's one question too many. And the last piece for Boston, that really sounded more like a tourist promo commercial to me. If it's a commercial by Boston, the Tourism Promotion Council, I don't know that that would have been right for the context of a narration demo if this is being purported to be a narration demo piece. So I'm kind of looking at the disbalance of this, and right off the bat I'm going, I'm sorry, this just isn't working for me if I have to make decisions against other people that are also up for this booking. And again, when I count four in a row at, let me see, from 0 and out of about 126, well, you know, they had 126, which is a 90. It's not really a 90. It's shy, and it's only 4 pieces, which means somebody went to a boot camp and got it done, and somebody slapped it together and said, here's your demo. That's my end takeaway. I may be completely wrong, but it doesn't matter. That's my takeaway. And if that's my takeaway, with all due respect, you're a great voiceover person, whoever you are, but you've already been outlit and de-shined or de-shoned or dethroned by the production values here. All right, okay, I've been long-winded. Let's move on.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, your coach for this course.
Oh, okay. Now, again, Jonathan, I don't know if that's real time in terms of when you're going into your e-learning courseware demonstration here, but it sure sounded like a beginning slate. And that beginning slate was enough to have me go doing in the back of my medulla oblongata with a warning sign. Okay? It sounded like a beginning slate, even though I hear as it moves in to the demo that it's probably going to be an introduction from whoever our chosen vertical avatar announcer host is in the e-courseware environment. But boy, that sure was a rough one to start off with. Okay, enough said on that. Let's play it.
Hi, I'm Jonathan, your coach for this course. Over the next hour or so, I'll be your guide, sharing with you the knowledge I've gained during my years with Credit Suisse. Sounds good? Well then, let's begin. Audials One has entertainment for the whole family, easy to use and completely automatic. Audials One has something for everyone. Music, videos, films. Your entertainment with Audials One. Congratulations on getting one of the most exciting street rides out there, the Easy Surfer. Let's first introduce you to the most important things you need to know to get a quick and safe start with your new ride. Make sure to watch and follow the instructions and warnings provided, and remember, the stunts shown in this video are done by highly trained skaters and are the results of lots of practice. Have fun with your new Easy Surfer.
Okay. Okay. So the first one was, if you're French, it's Credit Suisse, not Credit Suisse. And again, it might be Credit Suisse in an American marketplace, but Credit Suisse, as the European conglomerate, which has its financial institutions in France, I question if somebody would have produced this and said, how appropriate do we want the brand in the leading piece to be handled, or using the right name of the right advertiser and the right pronunciation. The mix throughout this thing is not really compressed into wall-to-wall. It hasn't been limited. It hasn't been compressed. The mix is a little harsh on this, so it just doesn't sound like it really had the right kind of time to a broadcast standard. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's harsh. It's bright. So the audio mix gives me reason to just kind of question. Your last piece, which is a DRTV spot, it sounded like a long form or a short form infomercial piece, DRTV, direct response television. So from this one person, I've got a financial courseware guide, which I don't know why, but I don't know where. I don't know if it was point to purchase. I don't know if it's web-based. Then on the next one, I've got this mix in the spot, which is kind of harsh to me, and I'm going into the DRTV spot. I'm kind of looking at what is this demo supposed to be. It's got financial narration in the front. It's got a direct response television collateral piece in the back, unless it was a web streamer. Maybe it's just web direct marketing. But again, I'm not getting enough definition in it to know what this is for, and I'm really questioning the casting all through this, given the signature voice that I'm hearing from this particular talent. There are some things that this talent should be on, specific brands, specific categories of industrial classifications of goods, whether it's retail, whether it's fashion, whether maybe it's more hair gel. I mean, there are all kinds of places to put a voice like this. But, Credit Suisse on a financial, I don't know, and the direct response thing, which is like that surf thing, maybe I think the marketers probably would have found somebody like who's a real hotshot surf type in that demographic and probably found that spokesperson. So again, I'm sorry, to me, your work is good, but the demo itself reeks of being a demo, and it just kind of doesn't show that it's on target for the intended media applications that it's intended to be, it's supposed to be representing as a truth to having actually been really used somewhere. Let's see what else we have here. Let's kind of move down the pipeline. And again, if you have questions, because I'm going to make comments, and the comments I'm making are going to inspire thoughts and questions, countless questions, I'm sure. And you might even be, if it's your demo, you might say, doggone it, that gets me, however it gets me. But if you've got anything you want to say, jot it down. Get your handy-dandy number 2 pencil right now. Jot it down. And save your questions, because when we get into the Q&A, I'll kind of open this up a little bit to kind of get more in depth in terms of what's going on in the demo world today and what's really being reflected. Okay? Let's move on.
Called me the powerhouse. But after college, I kind of...
I'm sorry about that. Let's try this again.
Back when I played football in college, they called me the powerhouse. But after college, I kind of settled down. So to keep myself feeling strong, I bought a powerhouse, the GMC Envoy. Go ahead, make a wish. Now call your Allstate agent. Because today, planning makes wishes come true. And your Allstate agent can make sure that family security, college funding, and even a healthy retirement are in the stars for you. In Lynchburg, Tennessee, you can see a distillery where Jack Daniel made whiskey way back in 1866. We still make it in a slow, deliberate fashion, much like he did. One sip, and you'll be glad to know we don't ever plan to stop. Jack Daniels, smooth sipping Tennessee whiskey. This story isn't having a fire sale. It's not a year-end clearance, and they haven't lost their lease. It's the kickoff of Buyer's Assurance from American Express. Now until the end of the year, we'll double the repair period of the manufacturer's warranty. Discover hand-carved estate furniture, from mahogany dining tables to pine armoires and much more at Custom Furniture Outlet.
Okay. Okay, so we have 5 spots represented on this commercial demo, and it is a commercial demo. And, you know, we might say, boy, there's some really good production value throughout the entire demo. The mix was good. Music picks weren't, you know, they weren't absolutely bang dead on, but it sounds credible given the regionality of this voiceover talent and the regionality of where this media was most likely produced and where it was absolutely going to be aired, used, or, you know, where it was going to play in its audiovisual media footprint. So it's obvious we have a voiceover talent here with a very southern regional dialect. If somebody wants a southern regional dialect, they're going to hire this person. And if they are smart, they will probably hire somebody with a real southern regional dialect as compared to somebody who says that they can do one. What regionalisms do you do? What accents do you do? Here we go. So if you really want the real authentic guy, and looking at the fact, and this has been bothering me lately because a lot of people are moving into, as an example, multicultural marketing now. And if you go to websites that promote people do great Hispanic media, Latino media, Chicano media, they can give you all the statistics as far as the breakdown of what segment of a Hispanic or Latino market is listening to what kind of commercial production or web streaming or what kind of marketing communications in this world of ours. But isn't it funny that all the websites are in English? And they're appealing to people to say, when you want to be able to hit the Hispanic marketplace, come to us. We're the XYZ agency, and we do Hispanic marketing commercials, and here's your demographics, here's the reach, here's your statistics, here's the research. And isn't it funny that all of those brands that are reaching out to people that want to reach the Hispanic marketplace, all the websites and the collateral are in English. So this brings me back to this voice talent here. Do we think that this is a very good voiceover demo for somebody who's going to make buying decisions in today's world and marketing products only, shall we say, from Panhandle, Texas, all the way down to Panhandle, Florida, and headquartered maybe in Atlanta? Is this absolutely right for Home Depot? Is it right for Lowe's? Is it right for the do-it-yourself stuff? Our nation has gotten so urbanized in that people that used to live in the Northeast now live in the South. People that live in Seattle are now moving down to Atlanta. People that move in Atlanta are now living down here in San Diego. We've all moved around. So because of that, marketers still have a handle on knowing that when they want to find somebody to really reach into a real region and make it sound like they're hitting the core of that kind of market to the real down-home, very southern-rooted demographic of the real people that kind of really live in the roots of that, they will hopefully make a buying decision to use a real southern voice like this. But again, think of what I've said when I've said that even the people marketing their marketing dollars are saying they can provide client services and go into the Hispanic multicultural marketplace. And they're speaking to other people trying to get those dollars in English, okay? So you have to ask yourself, are people really going to want this kind of a direct southern regional accent? And that's really the only reason you're going to hire this voice talent, because I'm not hearing anything else. And I'll say, okay, good. If I'm going to make that buying decision, then this is a guy that you put in there as a contender for that kind of reality-based programming to actually be reflective of a brand that we really want to be reading in the grass, rocking chair on the porch or the veranda. And maybe I'm in Connecticut. I'll make that decision because he sounds like the real dude to me. And then I hear the spot for Lynchburg, Tennessee, and how wonderful it is. Jack Daniel's sipping whiskey. And I remember what they told me when I was doing commercials and advertising for alcoholic beverages back in 1978. And I thought it would be great to put on a demo. And they said, against the Federal Trade Commission and against the laws of the United States, it is illegal to do any kind of broadcast commercial media advertising for hard liquor. If you're on the line and listening to me, you have a spot which, though I might say it's very cool and very good to be thinking that I'm right there in Lynchburg, Virginia, and watching the still dripping that wonderful moonshine or the Jack Daniel's booze coming on right on the slough. Wonderful production. But guess what? You just gave me a big clue that this reeks or leaks of non-real credible market usage. Because I'm going back to my first grade, first school, where people would look at me and say, beautiful spots you did for Cocktails for Two and for such and such distillery, Ron, but unless it's a beer, you can't generally in today's world put hard liquor into the media. You don't see it that much on television. I think once in a while you do now. There was a spot going around for vodka every night, so they're using the Brad Pack music. But it's really a rare anomaly. So it's just enough in my producer's head to go, wait a minute, is this for real? And if I'm asking that question, your demo is now detracted from your capability and your otherwise very somewhat credible market usage for somebody who wants to do Southern vernacular marketing. And again, keep your thoughts. We'll open up this into more Q&A when we get deeper into this. Let's move on.
Back when I played football in college, they called me the powerhouse. But after college, I kind of settled down. So to keep myself feeling strong, I bought a powerhouse, the GMC on.
Yep, sorry about that. We've done that. My mistake.
That's good. I mean, that's really good. It must have taken you forever to make this. Do you find your kids watching too much TV or playing video games for hours at a time? When's the last time you all did something together? It's hard to believe that nearly a decade into the 21st century, we're still talking about illiteracy in America. But it's true. Need to liven up your Friday nights? Visit the place everyone's talking about, the West Mill Music Hall. Got thin, fine hair? Not a problem, because Bella has the shampoo and conditioner to take care of. Oh, what should I cook for dinner? It's the same old problem every night. Making the same meals every week gets awfully repetitive. My parents spent a lifetime collecting the beautiful antiques and art that they loved. A will is the last gift you leave behind for your family.
Oh, good. I love that little musical thing on the end. It's like, watch me pull a genie out of my hat, and for what reason, I have no clue. Okay. Okay, the audio mix, again, this is a technical standard. It sounded like there's a lot of room ambience in the recording on the wrong microphone on the voiceover. Maybe it's, okay, I can be very anal, I apologize, but I'm hearing audio mix question marks, okay? When I'm done with this, if this is supposed to be a commercial demo, when I'm talking about taking a talent and branding them to the highest possible brands, okay? If you're taking your career, you want to always aim high, and then you can sell low. If you aim low on your demo, you can never sell high. What does this mean? If you're going to do a spot for the local retailer, if it's the local mattress, you know, Jack's Mule Barn and Mattresses, and you're promoting Simmons Beauty Rest, now on sale at Jack's Mattress Barn, you're better off doing a spot for Beauty Rest Simmons or whoever the national branded mattress is, and then downplaying the segment cut so it sounds like this is just a local or regional or a co-op cutaway, but mostly the national brand is the one that's reflected. So when I'm listening to this as your commercial demo, hon, I'm really not getting any registry of any branding at all. Finally am listening to it, what are we doing? It's sensitive. The next thing sounds like a PSA. Well, a PSA is nice, but it doesn't belong on a commercial demo. And by the time I finally get a brand from somebody, like third spot in, I'm hearing something for the West Mill Music Hall. Good, come on down to Jack's Mule Barn. I mean, look, we all live in Google world. We can Google any of these things. I mean, I heard a spot going here and out here. Somebody gave me their demo, and it was for something I think it was called Brex TV. I went, I don't even know what a Brex TV is. I don't know, or if I could Google it, I could go find where the West Mill Music Hall is. But as soon as you've done something with that kind of a brand, local retail, very local, close, small market proximity of one particular thing, at best you have shown yourself to be a local market, local commercial, probably knocked out at the radio station kind of a player. That kind of a media production for a very specified small market use in your area, which I wouldn't even say is regional and certainly not even statewide for consideration. It's kind of like, I did one for the local company down the street. And for all I know, the West Mill Music Hall is probably the greatest thing in the city. And that could very well be. But if anything, if I'm waiting for some brand attachment, I had to wait for the third position to get it so I understand who you are and where your media credibility is. And then when you finally gave it to me, I'm sorry, it's not Carnegie Hall. It's not Walt Disney Concert Center in Los Angeles. It's not the Academy Awards venue, the Nokia Theater anymore, where people have got some global or national renown, Kennedy Center. And I'm not trying to be demeaning when I say that the local market isn't of value. That's not my point. I'm just trying to say is that if you're wondering why the demo is not working for you, even if you're sitting there on voice 1, 2, 3, if that's the reality, why somebody isn't buying it is because you've just kind of really pigeonholed yourself into a very, very small little place. I don't really care to do that for my talent. Let's see if I can move on here.
That's good. I mean, that's really good. It must have taken you forever to make this. Do you find your kids watching?
Okay, I think we just did that one, didn't we? I believe we did. I think that was it. Oh, and this music thing on the end? Hold on a sec.
Antiques and art that they loved. A will is the last gift you leave behind for your family.
All right, so production values here. That was a hard, useless edit. In the last spot on your demo, I'm going back to the demo before, it was like, let's leave a living trust and a will behind. That's a wonderful thing to leave somebody on a demo. Let's put you on a real upper as we leave you. We want to leave you with something warm and fuzzy and memorable to. A demo is a piece of theater. It's a piece of cinema. It's its own television show. You want to get them in the beginning. You want to take them for a nice ride. And if you've got them all the way to the end, you've got to leave them with something gazang, which is wonderful, warm, loving, and fuzzy. And it's like a light bulb. It's that warm USP at the end of the demo that leaves them with something warm and memorable on the sting for them to remember you by. And that one was a cop-out. You're talking about, it's a very endearing, sensitive piece. And then for no reason, when we had no other way to get out of the demo, your engineer said, well, I'm going to find some kind of new agey, glossy, glittery thing, and I'll just stick it on the end. But it certainly didn't make sense to me in terms of the musical credibility, the music usage of the demo, as far as being a real, viable music piece that would have been attached to the media closer that would have been relevant as a real closer to a real spot. I mean, all these things have to be taken into consideration.
Jeremy looked up at the ceiling of his brand new bedroom.
Okay, this is the same talent. And you know what? I'm gonna, just because we've got so many demos, I'm not gonna play this whole one. Just to let you know, this demo is the narration demo. It is in total length. It goes on for 2 minutes. So I'm gonna just kind of spin through and see what I can say about it as we go. I'm gonna hit play.
I did it! Jeremy looked up at the ceiling of his brand new bedroom and then heard his mom out in the kitchen. He sprang out of bed and ran into the kitchen to hug his mom. Well, Mommy! Mommy! I did it! I spent a whole night in my room and no monster ate me up. Jeremy's mom gave him a great big hug and said, I'm very proud of you. You should go tell your dad while I make breakfast. Jeremy flung out his arms like an airplane and roared on a steep bank out of the room. Daddy! Daddy! He cried. I did it! I slept the whole night in my room. And no monster came out and ate me up. Not the blue one or the purple one with stinky breath. Today.
Hi, this is your host. This is Ron Knight. I've just gone into Vulcan Mindmeld. And with all due respect to the voice talent who's doing a very decent job at a kid's book on tape, this is a narration demo, I would have thought. And if I'm a producer who has to make a decision for doing a corporate narration, an industrial narration, if I'm working any one of 3 to 5 chosen industries, and you find out that I'm an audiovisual producer, and I'm not working anything to do with a kid's book on tape, and you've taken almost 37 seconds on this long stretch, darn near 40 seconds. If I hear anything more about the kid with the monsters under the bed, I'm probably going to shoot myself. I mean, it's really not relevant towards anything that I need on an industrial narration demo. And especially with the long stretch, I mean, it was going on, you know, forever. Now, the book on tape people love long stretches. They want to hear what you can do when you open up. If you're going to do a book on tape demo, then put this in the appropriate place for kids' book on tape. If you're going from that into this,
And no monster came out and ate me up. Not the blue one or the purple one with stinky breath. Today, we tend to think of lighthouses as cliché tourist souvenirs or romantic structures outlined against a sunset. Early in our history, though, lighthouses were
so now you're going into a piece on lighthouses, and I don't know what this is for. Again, is it documentary? Is it science? Is it web streaming? Is it encyclopedic? Is it a government fundraiser because we need to raise money for the lighthouses because the nation is broke on the balls of its ass? Who's doing this? What's it for? But I'm so distracted by the monster piece with whoever it was under the bed and nobody eating them up that I can't even get into this. And if I do get into this, now I'm listening to the music with that really kind of library production urban hip-hop thing, which is exactly the first thing I think of when I think of historic lighthouses. You know, so again, does the work reek or leak of being a demo because some producer engineer was able to get this together and just grabbed the music and said, well, it sounds hip and groovy to me? I don't think if I was the producer for National Geographic, and if that's what I want my talent to sound like you're doing a piece for National Geographic, the great historical lighthouses of all time. You know, does that sound relevant that National Geographic and or any of the corporations that give their money to take the four color glossy pages of National Geographic or to support National Geographic's websites with their collateral, their marketing, their dollars, their support, is that the way they would be kind of represented? To me, it just doesn't feel like a real buy. It doesn't sound like a real production. It's real credible. I'm going to move on here because that's a very long demo as well. And again, it's got long stretches, and the continuity of it just is not matched. Let's move on.
David Brower.
I'm a golfer.
David Brower, I hope you're listening. Hi, guy. I know you, and you're credible. You had a long history. Thank you for introducing me to Susan Berkeley. Like, what the do I need that for? Do you slate? No, not in today's world. And I know you're in Colorado, but you don't need the high proficient voice of the great AT&T lady and the best broadcast workshop trainer of all time. Slating the demo for you. Thanks for introducing me to Susan Berkeley. You've just taken your valuable real estate away, but that's okay. You don't need slates in today's world. Let's move on. We'll go back into this.
David Brower.
I'm a golfer, and I play Titleist.
You get the Hyundai Advantage, America's best warranty. The Denver Nuggets and the Portland Trail Blazers. Thank you for holding. Someone will... conflict occurs, the company promptly addresses the matter. If you're behind in your payments or stuck with an adjustable rate mortgage, call Adjust Home Mortgage at 888-589. 22770. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 10 to 7 each day. Over 100 new and used vehicles slashed in price during the giant 27-hour sale.
That guy was stinking rich.
Since when do we rob our own? Let's go quick. New Stars Original premieres next Saturday at 10 without warning, without explanation.
It's all over the country.
Mark Wahlberg in The Happening. Right now, get a new Volkswagen Jetta S, just $16,999 during Volkswagen Sign, Then Drive event. One workplace, making your workplace work.
Okay, and it goes into a dead sting with no closer at all, just kind of dead and cold cuts. That's it. Okay. Now, I'm not here to take people's work apart for the sake of taking it apart, and it's like so many people in the industry, just taking it apart because we all got opinions. We got to find something bad to say. It's not why we're here. David's a credible player. Most people know David if you've looked around on the VO universe and what have you. I'm only here to make constructive criticisms and what I would do for somebody like a David. If this is David's calling card, and I've often said that a demo is nothing more than a very fancy business card, but it should be a production that's relevant towards the core industry that you're going after and positioning yourself for when you're showing expertise vertically targeted to a core circulation of other producers of collateral of that specific editorial focus, or 6 or 7 industries that are relevantly chosen, that you choose, that are also of relevance to the producers that you are pursuing to work with. Now, a demo can sound fantastic. We do live in a world of guys like Dick Orkin, Hal Rainey, and they were all things to all people. They could write. They could be creative directors. They could voice the copy themselves. They would produce themselves. And that's all fine if you're at that point, if you're a Hal Rainey, Dick Orkin or any of these other brands. And, much respect to David, sitting there in Colorado. He, for all I know, probably is. But what I would do is if I listen to this demo, and when I look at this as kind of an overall compilation, I see this as a demo that even though it sounds, let me say it sounds fantastic. And we know his branding because he's got those radio announce pipes. And I remember once sitting with Dawes Butler. I'm sorry I'm dating myself these days. And we all knew people that Dawes knew, and Dawes knew me, and we talk about other people because people talk, and they'd say, I remember that guy. No matter what he did, he always sounded like a radio announcer. Now, let's say this person is really crackerjack at their game. They've got years of radio branding, and I have another guy coming to me now who has been doing radio production as production director for his conglomerate core for 21 years. The problem is that if you bring that kind of franchise-sounding credibility and glossed-over production sounding a very specific way around one broadcast handle and wear it like a suit of armor, then other third-party producers who want to know a very simple question, what do you do under my hands of production? I don't want to hear what you do as the producer. And if I have a client that's coming to me, be it Lexus, Audi, Toyota, I don't care who it is, and by the way, David has great credibility in the automotive industry. But third-party producers want to hear what happens when they produce the work with their client approval, their creative, and their copy. And they want to be able to hire a guy who's not going to sound like the radio announcer, or they don't want to sound like that broadcast corporate clusteral group ownership. And by that, I know I've got one guy who's coming through to me who's got serious problems. 21 years of doing this. He's been Sheridan Broadcasting, one urban, some American radio network that he's been producing and the production director for 21 years. They hand him spots, he knocks them out. He's a turnkey machine. But everything he does, even though it sounds great, sounds like it's wearing the armor and the brass moniker of that branding imprint of the way that network would sound on every one of their advertisers. And producers today want to know, as long as they're getting paid and they earn their own track record and credentials, to say, what can I do with my own creative services and production to use a voice talent like this? And if they don't want that sound, and if it's already too stylized around that specific genre with that broadcast handle, it could very well be working against this candidate. The next thing I want to say is that because I've heard commercials go by in here, I've heard station imaging go by in here, I heard something that sounded like a motion picture trailer go by in here, and then I said, coming to you first thing in the morning, whatever that bit, first it sounded like the morning show promo for our morning team here at TV8. It's local television spot promo work all in one amalgamation. I would really rather split this apart for a guy like David and say, David, come up to the plate. You need a focused demo on commercial and go after the commercial people. You need a focus demo on independent motion picture trailer if that's where you're going to rise to the occasion and show them what you can do on that. You need a real promos demo for broadcast network promos, okay? And you need a real thing for industrial narration if that's what you're going to do. And if you broke those apart, wouldn't it be interesting to note that rather than getting all things to all people again, you could be making, I don't know, what is this, dollars and cents? Is that what's important to people? You'd be earning more money per each category by breaking it apart. If that's relevant to you, fine. You should be doing that. And that's what you should really be doing, is breaking it apart into separate collateral rather than putting it all together into one cluster production house perspective. It's just my opinion. I think the numbers would go up if that's what's important to you. Next one.
Work. Texas. It's a mythological place. It's the home of cowboys and Indians, the Chisholm Trail and cattle drives, the Alamo, and Spanish conquest. Wide open spaces larger than the imagination. How do you think the personal banker is using the customer worksheet so far? Pause the video now and answer questions 4 through 10 in your workbook. When you've completed the questions, resume the video. In 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail on one of the most ambitious expeditions in human history. What is less well known is that 87 years earlier, a Chinese admiral named Zheng He began the first of 7 equally ambitious expeditions. Buying stocks is easy. Anybody can do that. The hard part is knowing when to sell. And very few people know how to do that. The Buick Riviera. You're due. Definitely due.
Okay. Sorry about that. I kind of rolled from one end to the next. Yeah, I mean, this one just had some branding issues in it, you know, like the way it closed up, you know, buying and selling is good, and very few people know how to do that. Okay, but what's the solution? You know, the nice thing about a demo, too, is that if you're going to put your brands in there, get your brands in there, get the stings in there, get the hits, get the highest core value of maximizing, you know, if it was somebody, if it's a Shearson Lehman, fine. If it was a Charles Schwab, fine. If it's an educational university of something talking about people on financial training 101, fine. Throw it in there, but let me find the gem of where the endorsement is so I understand why it was done, and that way I can say, gee, I think I need to hire this person, because if the person has done that, then I'm working on a similar project and I want to put that person on this. I think I've got time to play one more. We'll go to Q&A, and I'm sorry, I have quite a few racked in here, and it's just taking longer than I would have liked, so let's just see where else I can get here. Let's try this.
Loretta Martin.
Want to get your shot?
Again, slates. Let's see what happens.
Loretta Martin.
Want to get your shopping done faster? What you need is a customized cart. Something turbocharged with 30-inch tires and an air horn to move any slowpoke shoppers out of the way. You're just a lotto ticket away from the sweet ride. At Sears, beauty's all about feeling great. Our beauty benefits guarantee you'll feel great about any beauty purchase you make with us. Rice. All spiced up sassy, ready for a good time. Real Louisiana-style long-grain rice. Huh, this is a side dish? Lipton Cajun sides. Vioxx is here to relieve the most common type of arthritis pain, osteoarthritis. Because after 27 years, you're still looking out for him. After all these years, you love him more than ever. And that's why you'll only give him Post-Premium brand flakes. Sophie, don't argue with me on this one. Use a Scotch-Brite sponge and use every house cleaner's most cherished right. The right to have and to hold.
Wearing out.
All right. Okay. Nice stuff. Nice stuff. And you know, it has some good values there. There was like, you know, the timing is interesting at about 60 seconds. So that feels right to me. It feels like a targeted house reel at an agency. So it sure sounds like, because the format is right on the money, I think the talent is probably on the money, and they weren't born yesterday. Okay, if you pardon my vernacular. But when I look at the time, it's starting right here, and it's actually ending at, okay, so it's 107. It's 107. Okay, so it's working. Would I have liked it actually more like at 59.9, because it would have been more, you know, at the real major agencies, and because it would have had an implied connotation to me that it was major agencies, I would have thought I would be dealing with maybe a more professed talent to those standards because that's what would have been represented to me in hearing something right at 60 seconds. But it's not killing me because it's at 1:07. It's a good demo for a lot of reasons. There's a blend in there between the arthritis piece and then the post-premium brand flakes, which was sensitive to sensitive, and I think I would have divvied that up. This is just me talking as your producer. I would have divvied that up a little bit more, and I would have hammocked. I like to use what's called in television programming, and I'm an old school guy, what was called hammocking. You know, you would have a tent pole of one hit, you'd find another hit maybe an hour later, so you find the half-hour show in the middle that just kind of sags like a hammock, and you use the two hit shows to be able to be the tent poles or that will hold up the hammock. So I like to show a little bit of a spread to carry the demo a little bit maybe better and tighter. I can't even read my own handwriting. The Louisiana rice thing was interesting. Again, I try to stack largest brands first. So, you know, when I heard the thing go by for the arthritis cream, I'm really, you know, it was a good spot. I'm just not sure I understand who that brand of that arthritis cream was. It wasn't like doing something, and I may be wrong about this, but it wasn't like doing something out of, you know, Bayer Labs, which has got national marketing dollars all over the place with a branded recognition factor. So that's something to think about. I would probably have also just taken a look at the order, like that Scotch brand sponge thing. How much fun was that? And by the way, your introductory piece is comedic and hysterical and funny as it was. I was almost expecting it to be for something like Google checkout. You need something that will check you out on the web faster, better, faster, cleaner, humorous. I was expecting it to be for one of the largest possible whatevers. And, you know, just listening back in hindsight, I don't really remember what it was right now. But, you know, leading off with a real big hysterical character-esque piece like that, that can work for you. But I also think you're possibly putting yourself at risk. Because if you want to show your highest brandability to the largest possible brands in the nation to lift yourself up, there's nothing wrong with showing your comedic and your character approach. But let's say you've got somebody with a serious decision to make on their production collateral. They've got clients to approve. It's a lot of money on budgets, and they've got to think, what is the client statement going to be for that media? Is that the way they would lead off for that kind of client, doing that kind of a production? And it was a great spot. But now as soon as you put that in the #1 position, if somebody's saying, I've got to find something that was really more appropriate for, let's say, your, you know, give them the Post brand cereal flakes or something like that, and I would have hoped it really was for Post cereals and the large national brand. You know, you got to wait for them to get all the way through to get to the sensitive collateral, and you've introduced yourself as a character. It's something for you to think about when you're going, are my numbers up? Because now people are hearing that, and they're going, the lady is a zany, wacky, crazy, I got the ukulele lady here, you know, something funny. But I'm not really looking for that right now, and I've got to get through the next, oh my God, I got 59 demos on the desk, or I've got 59 emails, or wherever it's coming from, if I've got 7 agencies submitting on a cattle call, you know. So it's not bad. You might just want to look at divvying it up. I would have let off with the Scotch piece. It's 3M, nice household brand product. If you're going for women, daytime television with a nice big fat brand like that right off the top, that's where I would have put my best foot forward. You know, that's what I would have done. I would have put my best foot forward in that regard. And then I would have saved the zany piece maybe for position #3. But I would have bounced them and hammocked them around together and make sure it was more evenly distributed, that had really great ping-pongs and opposites bouncing against each other while you move down the central core. I think that's all I'm going to do right now in terms of demo review, because I do want to get into Q&A, and I think we have been able to at least get through 8 or a few of these. So, and I'm sorry, there's countless more. There really have been countless, and you're all wonderful for taking the time to submit. I'm certainly available after this webinar. If you guys want to spend some time with privates, I do that. You know, I can schedule them with you, and I'm more than happy to do that. But as far as for the sake of the webinar tonight, I think we've done some pretty good listening here, and now I really want to open up some Q&A if we can. Becky?
Well, Ron, this is John. I want to tell you I am mesmerized by this evening's webinar, and I will be listening to it again when the recording is sent out tomorrow. And this reminds me, back when I was starting in voiceovers, I had a personal training session with you on developing characters. And I'm so glad to be back in touch with you on this.
Well, thank you. And it's a funny thing because I just found some of the series that I worked on back in 1985, and I thought I would post them out on Facebook, and I did that just because, you know, some of the things I did in the 80s were really endearing. I really enjoyed them, you know. And it was previous to my days in the director's pool at Marvel, you know, in the mid-80s. But sometimes you think, oh my God, you better not be putting that stuff out there because it's, you know, it is a little bit too representative of things that we've done in the past. But, you know, I appreciate your comments in that regard because I remember that was New York City, exactly, back in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
Early
Well,
90s.
Becky, can you take over now and lead us through the questions and answers?
Sure. Again, if anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your virtual hand. You'll find the little hand icon on your control panel. Just click that if you have a question or type in a text question. Our first question is from Greg Thomas. He asks, did I understand you to say that we should not mention our radio experience in our voiceover materials? I spent 20 years in radio. Is mentioning that a plus or a minus in today's world? I've lost the Mr. Announcer voice.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, this is Greg that
Yes.
we're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, hi Greg. Okay, depending upon where you are and what market you are in, there are a core of voiceover veterans and modern day people that aren't really vets, you know, the people that are taking over the industry that really do feel that voiceover and voice acting is, you know, giving allegiance and credibility to agency work, creative work, and theater of the mind. Now, I will pay no disrespect to radio because I've taken away some valuable things from radio myself, and that includes some of the people that I was fortunate enough to work with in my early days as I was just getting started. You know that the world of radio today, through the Clinton era, has changed, and with the clear channels, the infinities, and everything else that's out there, it's turned into group clusters, ownership, one entity owning 4,000 stations. Generally, the feeling is that if you're a production director or an on-air announcer at one of these operations, besides being constrained to doing time and temp, and please, with all due respect, I've worn many, many, many hats, including spending time in satellite over at Sirius, previous to Howard Stern. And then I left. And, you know, there I got to exercise a different set of wings. I wasn't playing time and temp, and I wasn't spinning records. I was doing some formatting, programming, some promotions, and I got the value of being an on-air talk show host, which for me was really a kick. I really loved being able to stretch on that. And one day, maybe when I grow up, I'll really get to do that again. But in today's world, as soon as most people realize that the constraints of the radio broadcast industry between time and temp, doing fast production for fast agency buys or, you know, in-house production, it's generally what they call, in the casting director's mind or the people in voiceover, kind of a kiss of death. Now, if, on the other hand, you are in a metro market where you have been for a long time and you have stability in that marketplace and are highly prized in that marketplace, and what I can honestly tell you is that there have been many times when we bring in people who would have a voiceover career and they also have a local radio career. And because of that, they get an implied media endorsement for those people that need the voice of so-and-so because the credibility that you bring to the table is that people already know your name. If they put your name on their product, you know, think about it in the largest macro level. And I once did some production for Bruce Buffer, Michael Buffer, you know, let's get ready to rumble. And we had streaming and webcasts and everything else. And by the time he went on Howard Stern, the thing spiked up to something preposterous, 8 million hits on the web because he went on the Howard Stern show. This is an endorsement power that radio brings to you. So if you're sitting there in Horse Breath, Montana, and I'm sorry, I apologize, I haven't looked you up to go, you know, what market are you in? But if you've been in a market of any length of time, and I don't mean radio roulette, I mean in a market where you have an established brand name and people know you, and you're credible, and you get the warm and fuzzy for certain brands and advertisers and other local marketing, manufacturing, media, advertising companies and product companies are in your area, and you would do well. What I do for my clients is I say, here's your economic corridor of your 50 to 100 mile radius and the most amount of money spent on audiovisual communications that support your local economy. And if you know who those players are, and if those same people know you by being your local radio announcer DJ guy, and if you're going to start putting your demo out to them not as local radio DJ guy, but because they know you, then if they want your immediate endorsement power to have a recognition value on that production that they're doing, then it will work for you. That is not to say if you're going to try and go after William Morris, if you're going to go after, you know, Abrams Agency, if you're going to go after any of the agencies, Dot Burns in Tampa, any of these other places, and you go, hey, I'm a radio DJ, that will not work for you. And there's a lot of casting directors in the business that just as soon as they find out you're in radio, it is a kiss of death. It's not to say you can't, and thank goodness you've lost your radio announce guy. And that is good, and it's good if you're honest about that, and if you can really say, yes, I've really done that. There might be people that would like to listen to you and go, well, have you done that really? But anyway, it can work to your favor. But generally, as a rule of thumb, you do not want to show that you are the radio guy. Not these days, not anymore. It's a double-edged sword. You got to know how to play it.
Okay, I do not see any other questions at the moment.
Oh, they must have thought I sucked.
There's a lot of folks are here. They're paying attention, but I guess they're just shy right now.
Oh, I've got a couple hands now.
Okay.
Okay, Christine Schneider, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Christine. How you doing?
Oh, great. This was absolutely fantastic. I'm in the middle of Yelm Podunk, Nowhere, Washington, and I've got a unique situation. I am I feel like I'm almost being forced to get a demo made a little bit prematurely in order to receive funding from the government for because of my disability. In light of what I've heard tonight, I have a much clearer picture. I was even told by the person interviewing me for this funding to just go to a local radio station and get something made. That, I realize, is the kiss of death after listening to you tonight. But anyway, one of the things they said was, well, something is better than nothing. Would you agree with that or not?
Well, look, if you're claiming to be an actress and if you don't have an 8x10 headshot, then, if you're a songwriter and you don't have a song to give somebody, something is better than nothing, because if you're looking at trying to get funded to start a business in the eyes of the government agency that is willing to fund you, and if you need to get started somewhere, then everybody has to get started somewhere.
Okay.
Put yourself into the hands of somebody who can be very, very honest with you, okay?
Right.
And not paint any pictures. I had a guy back on the Eastern Seaboard who wanted to come to me for demos. Similar situation, disability, got some government funding, proving that if they got away from their current job and had demos, that they could go out there. Can you help me develop a marketing plan? I said, yes. Will the demo suit the marketing plan? Yes. Can you give me an annual projection on the first year? If you walk the walk and talk the talk and do the work and do the numbers, well, yeah, but we had a motion picture production budget once that looked great. We had a plan to do multimedia CD-ROMs when the CD-ROM market was hot. $400,000 to produce something, and all we need is 20,000 end users at $20 wholesale versus $39.95 retail, and it sure looks good on paper. So, you're almost falling into a new category, which is called that other 13th deadly sin in voiceover, which is getting ready to get ready. And you're always going to be getting ready to get ready. And as long as you're waiting to get ready, then you're not going to have a demo to give out at all. And by the time the market shifts and people are kind of going around you and earning market share in your local community or the state of Washington, or we're not talking Washington, D.C.
No, we're talking state of Washington.
Okay. So if you work with a guy who's going to be credible and say, look, I'm going to be very honest with you, okay? I haven't even heard you read. I haven't even heard you do your thing. I have no clue what we're talking about. I don't know if you're living on Federal Way. I don't know if you live underneath the Space Needle in Seattle. I don't know if you're right up there next to Bill Gates somewhere at Microsoft. I do understand your major economic corridors of opportunity for audiovisual production. That I do know.
Okay.
And if I do know that we're going to put you in the following 6 or 7 categories that are flared around a specific segment, be it industrial narration, be it commercial, be it e-learning, be it wherever we're going to put you, because those are defined markets we're going after. And then if I could say, if you need to do this for the sake of getting government-supported funding because it will start a business, as long as you're coming into this with a realistic perspective. You know, I mean, let's get the Susan Boyle American Idol, you know, the British America's Got Talent stuff off the plate here. Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, you know, there is a pragmatic approach. If you don't have anything to work with, then you're never going to get going. But at the same time, you know, I don't know how much training you've had. I don't know your skill set. Okay. So,
I have lots of theater, live theater experience, and I recently took a private workshop with Deb Monroe up in BC.
Okay.
And I've audited Bob Bergen's animation workshop, and everybody is saying the same thing, that characters are my absolute strength. Okay. And so now my next question would be, when I get this demo made, I know I'm not supposed to be all things to all people, but would it be acceptable to create, maybe do like a 50-50 split between like commercial and or character commercial or something like that?
I'm putting together a really cool magazine. It's got a 4-color glossy cover, and on the cover, this magazine is going to go to people that manufacture school buses, and the name of the magazine is School Bus. I get halfway into the magazine, or spread throughout it, is something for the left-winded smoke shifter Green Fart Society. Okay? So, you know, it's about targeting the core of the marketing first.
Right.
And then understanding what we're going to produce that you're capable of. If you're going to say, you know, if everyone's telling you your characters are strong, and, you know, if you're going to sit there in your pajamas and try and get work through voice12376895070 through .com, whoever the hell they are,
right?
Okay, maybe, but that's not going to be the same thing as developing the walk, talking the talk, getting your first 50 contacts one-on-one. Hi, how are you? My name is your name is Bob. I do you do such and such. Are you listening to new demos or new voice talent? All the time. We need new voice talent. May I send you my MP3, my studio-grade MP3? Yes, you may. Can I call you next week? Sure. And walking the walk, talking the talk. Do you do characters? Right. What kind of characters? Are we talking cartoon characters? Are we talking video game characters? Are we talking about characters that show up on funny commercials? Which I know that, are you anywhere near Seattle?
Yeah, I'm only about an hour and a half away.
Oh, an hour and a half away. I know that's the center of humorous, ha-ha, funny commercial production in the United States of America.
Okay.
So, you know, if you're going to work with a producer and be serious about getting your head screwed on straight to say, what are my markets where they're spending audiovisual dollars, and how can I fit into that, and where is that within my 100-mile radius? Seattle, Bellevue, okay, Tacoma. Then you can say, now I know where I'm going. And then you probably have a representative shot of somebody that can guide you into a decent demo that will get you into the right places. And then from there, you're really just going to have to be able to deliver the goods. But you want to work with somebody who can at least make you represented in the right, correct way, so as not to be putting you into the jaws of, you know, the jaws of misery for a lot of reasons.
Right.
Okay. Does that answer the question, kind of?
Yeah, and I'll also be in touch with you afterwards and to carry this on so let others have the opportunity. But thank you very much for tonight. It's been fabulous.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad thank you. Fabulous for me, too. I appreciate it. Anybody else?
Yes, Ed Ladner has a question. Ed, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi.
My question. I have a brief question. On my resume as an actor, I have that I once did classical announcing and newscasting at a National Public Radio format station. Should I just delete that entirely, or I don't know? I mean, that was like light years ago, but.
You know what I would do? Okay, here's my advice to everybody, and if you're going to work with me, this is the way I try to angle you in. I look at this game as being on a pool table. And if I got to get that 8 ball in the side pocket, and if I have to call it, because my job is to leverage people upwards, and if you told me that you were at a classical station doing classical music, which right off the bat, I think about the most austere haute couture type of branding for advertisers or those kinds of media communications that would need a classical approach.
Okay.
I don't know that saying I was a classical music announcer, classical station announcer is going to help you.
Okay.
If you're going to be doing in-flight entertainment, such as what we do part of the time for Delta and Northwest. We have 6 shows that we do a year here. They might have a classical thing. Then that's a corridor that you want to pursue based upon your credential.
Okay.
But otherwise, I might look at some of the people that used to underwrite that show. Was it a PBS station?
It was a National Public Radio station.
Okay, so it was NPR. And
NPR, yes.
I used to know some of those people from back, when I was on.
And this was light years ago.
Okay, but
Late 70s.
You can borrow from the experience. If you can remember who some of the corporate underwriters of the NPR programming was,
okay,
I would rather, because if they're promoting themselves and producing something, even in spoken word in the way of branding those kind of broadcasts, I would rather take those corporate speak communicators and I would rather place you on their brands and their corporate communication speak. And without saying I have been the national voice of NPR, which might be the way to do it. It's kind of like every now and then I will still do that. Ron Knight, former, and I don't like being the former anything in my life, but on-air host for Sirius, Horizons, Bravo, Arts and Entertainment Network Radio. To some degree it kind of works. And on other reasons I know it's probably putting a few dings in my life. And the people that know me long term say, well, in the 80s and 90s he was in cartoons. So he's kind of been all over the place. But it might be more appropriate to say, national announcer for NPR, and don't say when, or just maybe the brand of the show, and more important, let's take a look at the corporate underwriters who wrote the dollars for that show, and let's put you on corporate speak for those kind of brands and those advertisers. In today's demo.
Maybe I should just lose it entirely because this was like, I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this was at the University of Tulsa when I was a student years ago. So this was like in a regional market. It was not like a national thing.
Well, look,
even though it wasn't an NPR station.
We could go into an in-depth analysis, which is what I do with all of my people right off the bat. And I'm being funny, and I know it's a very sore thumb subject, but I would say if you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm not going to put you on anything for fertilizer.
Okay.
Or for self-made homemade explosives. Okay.
All right.
But there's probably your strong suits that you also bring to the table. I'm not interested in everything. I would like to know about everything, but from there, when I spend an hour and a half with everybody in consultation, I find where your strong assets and your resources are, and that's what we pull out of you to make sure it's reflected in who you are and is on the demo. So we also define your core market and make sure that demo is going to that core market or that circulation, so you can get an identification going with those people who know what it is that you know and why you're the expert in it and why they hire you. A little bit different thinking. It's a little bit different thinking than I'm going to go get anything and everything that comes around, and I hope I get to be the voice of Dairy Queen.
True.
It's a little bit different kind of thinking. It's a different way of thinking about building your own business. I hope that answers for now, and certainly afterwards we can talk more about it. Anybody else?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Let me check here. Paige has a question. Paige, go ahead.
Good evening, Ron. Thank you for all the excellent information.
How are you doing, Paige?
I'm doing well, thanks. It's Paige Harper, actually.
Hi.
But my question is dealing with your, choosing copy, and you want to be credible and real and identify the brand, and I totally see where you're going with that. Do you not run into copyright issues of using someone else's copy, or is that not relevant on a demo because it's not itself income generating?
Well, number one, depending upon who you're working with, your demo has got to be stylized around you. So when I work with somebody on their demo, because I actually provide creative services as well, I will make sure that all the segments of demo, if you're not going to supply me with work that's already been done by other third-party producers, that some people say, can I recompile and recut my demo based upon things that have really been done? And I want to say if they're really credible and they build your branding, then yes, we want to include those. I had somebody that did a spot for Carnival Cruises. Okay, so did we include 7 seconds of it? Sure we did. But did we then opt to re-record it and do a better job of it? Yes, we did. Okay, but the person had already done it. In every other case where we're generating new work for you, it's actually falling under its own copyright because we're actually restructuring it for your own demo, and you are the only person having that on its own audiovisual piece of work. So you're not taking somebody else's copy you know, as taken from Ogilvy, Rich and Green, Octagon Advertising Corporation. I happen to find the copy, and here it is. Now I'm going to record that. You know, you go to these boot camps, and they're wonderful, and everybody's got to work out somewhere, and God bless them. And I know I've taught many, and I've had my own curriculum. But I've often told people when it's time to do your demo, you don't want the boot camp, and you don't want the workshop copy. And that doesn't mean that if you've heard something on the radio or television, you transcribe it, now we're going to knock it out again. It's not even a legal question. It's a question that people in this industry know who has done what. And the idea is that if you do the thing that you, and I don't mean you personally, Paige. I mean, let's say everybody knows that's the voice of a Morgan Freeman, or that's the voice of whoever, Pernell Roberts. It's a voice of somebody. Or they were involved in the production, or a third party knew somebody who was involved in the production, okay? We were just in an Earth Day thing the other day, and somebody was talking about the 9/11 truth stuff that was going on. And I said, do you want me to introduce you to the voice of Osama bin Laden, who is hired to be the English translation of the theoretical Al Jazeera broadcasts as sponsored by the United States government, reading the transcripts of what they purported was being said? So my point is that we all know who is doing what in some way, okay? So if you're taking something that somebody else has done, most people are already going to know that. And that's not doing you any good as the owner of that demo. And it's certainly not doing the producer any good for the person who's produced the demo for you. So I don't even look at the legal question. I look at the fact that generally when something gets stylized, it gets produced, built, and structured for you in your own persona, with your own branding best foot forward. And we make it unique to you and only you alone, and you're the only person who's got that in the world. It's your production. It's like your album. So, you know, broaching it from a legal standpoint, if I'm using 7 to 10 seconds on a segment, and if I can write a better USP hook than was actually done from a corporation, and by the time they get your demo and they go, wow, that was better than we did, I want that to reflect on you. I generally will not take copy from another source and just say, we're taking this verbatim.
But if you're using, you know, Sprint's name on your demo, but you've never actually worked for Sprint, is there, you know, some type of intellectual dishonesty about that?
No, not at all, and I'll tell you why. In the wonderful world of audiovisual production, with all the auditions that go on, or all the animatics that get done, or all the spec work that gets done, nobody would ever be in their right mind to say, you can't take the work that you did for an audition. And answer this one question. Have you been on a few auditions by now?
No.
Oh, okay, so you're still at that point where you haven't broken a few. Okay. You will get to a point in your life where some of the auditions that you do are actually better than the work that they actually give to you and hire you to be on later when the director comes in for a variety of reasons and directs you down and away from what you did that was so great when you did that audition that nailed the job for you in the first place. Now, that said, does it make sense to actually get a copy of what you did for the audition? And if you're prouder of that, and if you've got a good third-party head and a good ear for media truth, would it make more sense to put that on a demo? There are a lot of people that put audition stuff on their demos because it's actually better, and in some cases even better than the person who actually got the gig. And there's nothing wrong with putting audition collateral if it's part of your demo media representation speak. It's called a demo. Why is it a demo? Because we're demoing what we do in media speak. When you hire me, this is what I'm going to do for you, but this is demo. It's a simple word. It's a demo. What does it mean? Demonstration. What is a demonstration? There's nothing to hide from.
So no one thinks because I'm including Sprint in my copy, because that's the direction I'm heading in, they don't take that to mean that I've worked for Sprint, and then they'll say, so when did you work for Sprint? Oh, never. I never worked for them. And now I'm in a bad situation because it seems like I'm peddling something that's untrue.
Generally, what we have always found is one of two things. If that comes up, did you really do this? You can always say it was done as a demo spec work. It was done as demo in-house. It was done as an animatic. It was done for demo. And they don't need to know everywhere along the chain of where it might have been as done for demo. It could have been done as a demo by spec work of agency and then dropped because client didn't use it. They still gave you a copy. So it's representative of what you do. They're not going to hammer you for that.
Okay. And
they're certainly not going to say, well, my account is Sprint, and I never hired you to do that. They might hear it and go, gee, that person's doing a better job for what I would like to get done now than the people I've used in the past, especially if I want something new and fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't start saying, I've got to call the lawyer. Somebody just gave me a copyright infringement on a demo piece of work. Just by nature of the fact that it's called a demo as a demonstration, people tend to let go on it. And it isn't like you're taking these demos and you're not selling them for $9.95, $14.95. It's not recorded work. You're not getting, financial exploitation of that.
Right. Yeah, I was just wondering if there were also built-in assumptions that we have to be wary of, but I follow your explanation.
Well, I would certainly never, if there was a great great something spot out there and said, I can do that, I wouldn't take it verbatim and say, and I wouldn't put it on my demo as something that I've done, because that's not only just the lifting of a copyright, but you're going to find usually in copyright you have something called derivative audiovisual work. We could turn this into a seminar now on the legalese of audiovisual law, whether it's PA copyright, SR copyright, sound recording copyright, TX for the inherent content of the written word. You're not going to get into that when the United States government has already given a law of what's called all rights to copyright are inherently there for the original creation to protect the original creation, but that doesn't stop people from taking aspects of the creation and creating derivative audiovisual work. And you're not really doing anything in the way of financial exploitation. I get around it all together. When I do their demos, I listen to all the collateral. I shake it all out like laundry, and I say, these are the socks, that's the underwear, there's the blankets, there's the whatever it is, and that's what we're working with today. And then if something is going to be about 7 to 10 seconds worth, if I grab the collateral from one place, I go, that's not working in the context of what I need for this person's demo. I may know what's on the mission statement of the corporation, so for the next 2 years I know what the agenda of that company is, but if I put a 10-second representative sample for my voiceover talent on it, and if I'm going to do it in the context of, let's say, a commercial, rather than the context of, say, a streaming media presentation, I'm going to do it so all the hits and the dings of the copy, as a copywriter, are better for the media that I'm trying to position that talent into. And so there is no way that you could say you took our commercial, because I'm actually rewriting and recreating everything from the talent from scratch from my perspective as a creative agency production house. So your work is unique to you. If you go to somebody else and they've got a bin full of copy and they just have you record it over and over again, that's somebody else's business. I can't speak for them.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks for your question. That was a good one. Anybody else?
Michael Montgomery asks, instead of stating that I have 15 years in radio, should I say that I have 15 years experience of voicing and producing commercials for radio?
I think it's a question of looking at the person's clusteral life. Everybody in this business has tunnel vision. I've lived with my microphone for 21 years. I know the smell of the microphone. I can tell you stories that are relevant to the guy who could drink me under the counter at the radio station. Your life isn't about just your radio. I did an interview, a consultation with a voiceover guy, today. He spent the first half hour on the consultation telling me about his 21 years, 27 years, 30 years, 35 years, all on radio. I said, the totality of your life is that you've been in radio? For crying out loud, the first year that I was in radio, I get to work an afternoon shift, and I sat there all night because I worked with one guy who came in on the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock graveyard shift. And my life was not about my first year in radio because I got to be the production director. What was relevant for my life in that first year in radio is that I got to work with a man by the name of Patrick Carlin. George Carlin's older brother. Good old Pat Carlin. You can read about him in George's latest book, Last Words. This is a relationship that I get to take to my grave, because the two of us worked together for shy of a year with nowhere else to go. So we would just sit, and if I had my choice to go out clubbing or drinking, and nothing else to do in that godforsaken town where I worked my first year in radio, or just hang with the big brother of George Carlin and just glean the pearls of wisdom from this great man's older brother who helped and shaped him as to who he was. Now, I'm being a little bit metaphorically diverse here, and my point I'm trying to make is that there are things that have happened in your life that are much, much more relevant to you than your radio history. And yes, you've made a living in radio, and yes, you have a media handle, and yes, you're relatively important and known because of doing that. But if I asked you within a good 45-minute consultation all the clusteral gestalt of what's going on in your life and what's important to you and your experiences and your hobbies and your wives and your kids and what you do for a living, and if you were the son of a minister or if you were a whatever, and if you basically love outdoor water skiing, if you love kayaking, and all these other things that are really important to you, I think we can find more important, relevant places to be able to promote you, angle you, and position you than just saying, oh, and yeah, by the way, for 21 years I was with the smell of a microphone because I've been a production production guy in radio. And that's not to discount your background in radio. There's a way to weave that in, but we've got to figure out why you are a signature that is more relevant to, say, 6 or 7 dominant industries within core brands that want a piece of you. And I think that's going to be a little bit more relevant than saying, well, because I was a production director at WIPT, Indiana, or wherever the hell you were, with all due respect. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm not trying to be a smart-ass. I'm not trying to be demeaning. You know, you might have been a production director right up there with Bobby Ocean, for crying out loud. I mean, pick a name. I don't care. What's relevant to you is finding that core, those core areas where your knowledge base just flies and shines. You know, I used to talk, when John was with me in New York City and he came through one of my classes, you know, I would tell people, you know, you take this voiceover class, you take your boot camps, you come into my advanced class, you do all this stuff, and you're all still hanging on to that. You remember the Walt Disney cartoon, that Dumbo the Flying Elephant? And Dumbo had that black magic feather. John, do you remember? Was this relevant? Does this ring a bell for you at all? The point, you know, there was a scene at the end of that movie where Dumbo jumps off the high dive, and he's got that little representative character of his conscience, who is the mouse, who's sitting in his little circus hat. And they're plunging to their death because he's trying to jump off this high dive down into the tank of water, and he drops, or he loses hold of the black magic feather. And because of that, he doesn't think he's ever going to be able to fly. And the little character, Timothy the Mouse, is screaming and yelling, for crying out loud, you never needed the black magic feather. It was all malarkey, Dumbo. For crying out loud, we're going to die. We're hitting the ground. Just open your ears and fly. You didn't need the feather. You just open your ears and fly. And sure enough, the elephant opens his ears, and they go zooming up to the top of the circus tent, and they go flying around, and it's happily ever after, and everybody's amazed at how wonderful the elephant is because he can fly, right? And that brings us to a wonderful crescendo and a wonderful end of a picture, and they all live happily ever after. So I used to tell my voiceover people the same thing. If you're still holding on to black magic feathers, guys, you really just don't need it. You just need to open your ears and fly. So if you're hanging on to your radio peg, and if you're hanging on to the smell of the microphone, this is why the last voiceover workshop I did wasn't even in the studio. I took everybody outside to go get acquainted with themselves in real life and saying, let's go deep into what you can express, because that's what people want to hire today. Real expression of real living, of real life experience that connects on a one-to-one basis with a psychographic, an individual, a collective demographic, when you put them all together into groups. And they want that media speak to be representative of entire groups that are made up of these single core individual one-on-one relationships. It may not be about your radio at all. So don't think you have to lead off with your radio. That's a cool black magic feather, but you just may not be need to hanging on to that thing when all you need to do is just open your ears. Let's find out what you're all about, and let's see if you fly. Long-winded. Sorry. Anybody else?
Do not see any other questions at the moment.
So, Rod, this is John. So we open our ears and we fly.
If anybody needs to reach me, I think the contact info is there. John certainly has it. You can find me in a variety of places, including all your logical suspect places, your VO universes, et cetera, and John knows how to get in touch with me. And certainly nightmedia.com is easy enough. You can go right through the email link. There's a temporary holding digital graphic animation page holding space. But yeah, you folks certainly know where to find me if you need me. If there's no other comments or questions.
Thank you so much, Ron. You held our attention for nearly 2.5 hours. Everybody's still on here, and I want to thank you so much. Thank you, Becky, for a wonderful job again.
Yeah, Great job, Becky.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thanks to all the participants for hanging in here. I'm really surprised anybody would really want to listen to me that long. But thank you very much. It was very sweet and very kind of all of you to contribute your time for such a long period. Thank you so much for letting me be here.
Well, we enjoyed it very much. And thank you, everyone, for being on tonight and for your wonderful demos and for participating in the Q&A. So we'll see you next time. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.